Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tip Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number. It won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. And Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, I'll be speaking to Ireland South MEP Cynthia Ni Murchu in just a few moments' time. Cllr Shane Lee will join us to share his concerns surrounding teen addiction. The RTE Sports Awards, leaving some Tipperary viewers rather unhappy indeed. Thomas Conway has the global news, and Alison has the final instalment in the Conspiracy Files. So all of that and more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers. The Irish Independent, their lead story today by Sarah O'Mahony. Private school fees have risen by more than €2,000 for some students amid rising energy, staffing and food costs. And that's according to an Irish Independent survey. The Irish Daily Mail and their lead story, homelessness is being driven by migratory pressure, Micheál Martin has said. Now, new figures seen by the Irish Daily Mail show a third of adults in emergency accommodation are from outside of the EU, with the total figure more than tripling since 2022. The Irish Examiner and the lead story on the Examiner today. Gardaí have sent a file to the DPP seeking charges against the leaders of Ireland's number one drug trafficking network. Now, it's understood Gardaí are recommending charges of directing and participating in a criminal organisation against bosses of the long-established gang known as the Family. Also on the Examiner today, a row has broken out between the Department of Housing and the Limerick Mayor over plans to develop small modular rental properties in the city, with aspirations to deliver 2,000 units now slashed to just 150. And finally, a look at the Irish Times. And the Times today leading with the story that new initiatives, including targeted bursaries for teachers and a universal teaching qualification, will have to be considered to resolve recruitment challenges faced by schools, particularly around Dublin, the Department of Education believes. And also on the Times today, Conor Lally's piece is rather interesting. A new system to electronically tag prisoners in the Republic, which will be used in an attempt to ease chronic overcrowding in jails, will be established and run by a private company. So that's what's making the front pages today. If you want to comment on any of that, we'd be glad to hear from you. Once again, it's 083 311 3311. Now, there's been a huge increase in the number of drug driving cases coming before Nenagh District Court, and that's according to figures supplied to Ireland South MEP Cynthia Ni Murchu, who joins me now. Cynthia, good morning to you.
Fran, good morning. Nolly Conrich, agus gonna hey story. Great to be with you.
And lovely to talk to you once again. Would you tell me about this, particularly that comparison to last year? It's remarkable, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I did another Freedom of Information request from the Court Service. It's kind of my pet hobby, but I have a huge interest in road safety, Fran. But in particular, this question was about drug driving cases, and nationally we see a jump of 37% in 2025 by comparison with 2024. But you referred to Nenagh there, I believe, close to home for your listeners.
Yeah.
And in Nenagh, there was a jump of 155%. That's a whopping jump. Now, Longford was larger at 443%, and other areas were slightly larger as well. But the point here, the basic point, Fran, is don't take drugs and drive, don't drink and drive, and don't use your phone and drive, and don't do anything that's dangerous when you're driving, because you are going to end up, as a statistic, there's a high chance that you will. And I just want to say my condolences to two families who are grieving over the weekend. 2 more lives gone, Fran. I thought it was 182 when I did a video last week as I left Strasbourg, as in 182 road deaths on the road. But unfortunately, before Christmas, we're now at 184. And Fran, that's 20 people, 20 persons, 20 families and communities of an increase on this time last year. So, look, something is going dreadfully wrong, and it's been going dreadfully wrong for a long time, and we do have to point the finger, and I mean that in a positive way, not being critical, but we do have to point the finger towards the decision makers and towards our ministers. I know that both Minister Kenny and Jim O'Callaghan are working extremely hard, but something extra needs to be done, because I just look back at the figures, Fran, in 2012. And in 2012, the road deaths in Ireland amounted to 161. We are going dreadfully backwards, because you know what? It looks like we could hit 200 road deaths in Ireland before the end of 2025. That is...
Now, of course, there's a large increase in the population since then. But what other reasons would you look to where that increase is concerned, do you think?
Yes, well, look, of course we know about driver behaviour, and we know about we should have increased penalties, and in relation to what do we do with all this increase in drug driving, what I've been calling for my press release was, over this acute phase of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, over Christmas and the New Year, we really need resources deployed by Garda the Commissioner. I'm sure he's going to do it. The roadside drug testing regimes, we need to make sure Garda Síochána has sufficient kits for the drug testing as well as the drink testing. And also, if anybody's convicted over this season and indeed into the future, they should be required to sit their driving test again, as well as other penalties. I'm talking about the other penalties as well, whether it's fines or whether it's a suspended sentence. And the other thing is, Fran, I was speaking about it last year, I think, to you, about fitting the interlock technology in cars if people were found once guilty.
Would you just explain to our listeners what exactly that is, Cynthia?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's a simple device that I've never physically seen in my hand, but I've seen it online and I've studied videos about it. And basically, if you are a convicted drunk driver, or in my case now I'm saying if you're a convicted drunk driver, then part of the penalties that the district court can hand down should be that this interlock technology, which is a device attached to your steering wheel, if I understand it, or somewhere on your dashboard, be fitted, and therefore you must breathe into the machine before you start the car. And if your system, or if drugs are detected, I should say, in your system, or indeed alcohol, the car won't start. So it's an interlock technology that is used in several countries in Europe and has proven successful based on the data and analysis of it.
You did say, and it's rather scary though, that the cases that make it to the district courts, that's only the tip of the iceberg as far as you're concerned.
Absolutely, because we know that the Garda Síochána is under-resourced to a degree. Now, there is a huge ramping up being done by Minister Jim O'Callaghan, and I do want to applaud him, and indeed his junior colleague, Minister Kenny. But the fact of the matter is we simply just don't have enough to detect, as you said, a rising increase in population. But more than that, Fran, unfortunately people know that they'll get away with these types of things as well, not only in terms of detection, which is obviously on Garda Síochána, but also in the district court service, which is cracking at the seams, even though district court judges, again, are working so hard. But we really do need to assist the judges, we need to assist the Gardaí in whatever way we can to get this huge number that's out there. Could I just say as well, and this is in no way being critical of Minister Kenny, but I do want to know his reasons. He's the junior minister, particularly for road safety. I do want to know, and I will be reading around this story this week because I'm only catching up on news, but I do want to know why he hasn't disbanded the Road Safety Authority, to divide it into two competent authorities. One to deal with the nuts and bolts of your car test, your driving licence, your driving test and all of that, but the other side to look at road safety. Now, I understand some of the arguments is, look, we can't create two bodies out of one, and it's not really efficient, and we should find out what the problems are first. But there was an expert report produced, and I do intend to read that, so I'm not speaking from complete authority on this point. But I do know one thing, Fran, if we are going to have 200 deaths in Ireland by the end of 2025, well, then radical means are called for. And if it's not dividing a body into two, if it's setting up a different body altogether out of the RSA, so be it. But we are laggards with regards to the rest of Europe. Road deaths, because I sit on the Transport Committee and I look at some of the figures for some of the other countries, we are only going in one direction, and that's upwards. And if you look at the figures for this year so far, pedestrians killed, 42, drivers 73. That can go up now based on the weekend's events, unfortunately, for those poor victims and families. and motorcycles, 30. So these are the three very, very dangerous. If you're a pedestrian, please be careful. If you're a driver, if you're a motorcyclist. But I think, look, we're all coming together now, Fran, for a happy time. And everybody's going to be chatting. But if somebody or if several people in the family could just remind everybody else not to drink and drive, not to take drugs and drive, not to be using your phone, and not to be distracted in any way, and to remember that the car is a lethal weapon. It will cause damage and destruction and death.
And from the figures you received, there's something that intrigues me. 155% increase in drug driving cases coming before Nenagh District Court, but only 5% of an increase in drug driving cases in the Clonmel District Court.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yes, it is odd. No, you're absolutely right, Fran. It is odd, but I can tell you why. Presumably, and this is only a presumption on my part because I don't have the data and the freedom of information answers to tell you chapter and verse that this is accurate, but I assume the resources of An Garda Síochána are being deployed at the moment into the Nenagh District Court area. So that's why I said in my press release this is only the tip of the iceberg. So, for example, you know that figure that you cited there for your other town, Clonmel, at 5%. Yeah, I think that's because it hasn't been detected, and that's because an awful lot of the drug driving testing, roadside testing, etc., is happening in the other area, or the prosecutions. It could be on an administrative basis, Fran, that the prosecutions are being brought to Nenagh for Nenagh to pick up the slack because Clonmel may be under pressure. Now, I know that the rules of the district court say that you have to be tried in your own local jurisdiction and so forth, but it could be an administrative issue.
All right, well, we'll bang off an email to the Gardaí and we'll see if we can get some answers where that is concerned. That controversy, Cynthia, surrounding the choice of Jim Gavin as a candidate has not subsided since the release of the Fianna Fáil presidential report last week. Now, although you say it's time to move on, you have criticised the report as unsatisfactory and a missed opportunity.
Absolutely. There was red flags early on in the so-called potential candidature of Mr. Gavin, and I'm talking about as far back now as June and July. So we're not talking about the heat of the campaign or the nomination or the would-be candidate or the Fianna Fáil contest, which is the end of August, very much the end of August, actually the last day of August, into the first 2 weeks of September, and the convention for Fianna Fáil was on the 9th of September. I'm talking about months prior to that, Fran, and if I was working in Fianna Fáil HQ and if I had met Mr. Gavin to discuss his CV, his background, his interests, his politics, you name it, in other words, a vetting interview, the minute he said he had been a landlord, I would have dug in. I would have burrowed in. I would have got the address of the property, the air code, if it existed way back then at the back end of the 90s, or the 2000s, I should say, excuse me, when he had this property. I would have dug in and I would have gone straight away to the public record, which is the Residential Tenancies Board. Now, that would not have told me about any debt, Fran. I absolutely accept that. But what it would have told me about was there is a situation here and there could be more. So the idea that this report indicates we asked, we were told nothing here to be seen, and we moved on. I find that not only regrettable, but I find it completely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable for an office of the land, which is the highest office of the land. And Fran, you and I are old enough to remember and to have witnessed presidential elections, presidential campaigns, I should say, in particular, before somebody is elected. And this is as much a moral test as it is political and other tests of the candidate.
And you're using your background there as a barrister to say that. So therefore you're saying to me that due diligence wasn't carried out properly, even though there was a lot of people involved in that.
Everybody has a different standard of due diligence, Fran. But can I tell you, if you want to look at the podcast of the independent journalist Fiona Sheehan and his editor Kevin and Mary O'Regan, his colleague there, if you want to look at that podcast, which I did over the weekend, and they laid out what investigative journalism they took and the approaches and the searches they did, debtors, judgments, all of that, all those bank searches, all those tax searches, all those things that you can do. Maybe you have to pay a fee now. There could be a fee involved in this. I know what judgment searches there are. But that's the kind of thing that Fianna Fáil, I believe, should have been spending their money on, their time on and their research on at a very, very early time. very early period, when they had loads of time. So there was no sense of other rumours running around about Mr. Gavin at that particular time because nobody knew about him. So there was oodles of time.
And the blame here lays at Micheál Martin's door, does it not?
Well, look, this was a decision that was made by the Director of Elections, Mr. Chambers, our great minister, and our Taoiseach, and also the Fianna Fáil executive team, and presumably others not on the executive team and so forth, in terms of this is a team effort. And I suppose Taoiseach took responsibility as leader of the team to say all of the blame lies on me. But it's not that I'm looking for a head. It's not that I'm looking to point the blame at any particular person. But what I find is that there is no robust findings whatsoever in the report as to saying it went wrong at this particular point. Now, can I also say I struggled as well to actually accept the entire findings of the report, apart from the recommendations, which are highly laudable at the back of it, and they will have to be actioned forthwith. But I struggle with the credibility of the entire report because I did an hour-long submission orally online to the inquiry team, and most of what I said, in terms of a very valuable timeline, which they asked me for, is not in the report. And I had to go then on the record on the News at 1 last week to put that right.
And why do you think those communications weren't included in the report?
I think, Fran, the authors of the report, who are independent and who are fully entitled to take whatever decision they made in terms of important, or the importance, I should say, that they would attribute to certain contributions. But I would beg to differ, and I think, as a result, the actual timeline, which they called this part in the report, the timeline is not reflective at all of what happened in reality. It's also not reflective of so-called, I suppose, the memory of what somebody attributed to the content of a phone call. So that's understandable because people have different memories and different recollections, I should say, of phone calls. But I actually had an awful lot of emails, and the emails are obviously in black and white, they're in print, and they were very useful, I felt, as a credible narrative of what happened, but none of those made it in. And I also, I didn't find this disappointing now, Fran, because I have to say I love my job as an MEP, right? The reason why I wanted to throw my hat into the ring was I wanted Fianna Fáil to win this.
You believe genuinely you could have won this, do you?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Look, we know in the past presidential elections, Fran, that Fianna Fáil was at a higher percentage rating. We know that is halved or reduced considerably. But I showed with my 90,000 plus votes that I was able to attract non-Fianna Fáil votes. None. I know that anecdotally, Fran. I don't know it from stats because we don't do proper analysis of the 90,000 votes that Cynthia Ni Murchu got in Ireland South. But I can tell you, I met so many voters on the ground who said to me, I am not Fianna Fáil, I never vote Fianna Fáil, but I'm voting for you. And that didn't only come from the mouths of Fine Gaelers, diehard blue shirts. That came from across the board, youngsters who had never voted. People saw something in me that was beyond the Fianna Fáil vote. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is, apart from me being a good candidate, and I had a track record, so I can say that confidently, I got the 90,000 plus votes from nowhere, from zero to there. But apart from that, Fianna Fáil are doing well, not just in the polls, but although we had a rickety-rockety start at the start of the government and putting it together and so forth in speaking time, but Fianna Fáil are doing well. Micheál Martin is doing well. He is very well respected, very well liked. And also, I do think that the ministers that are excelling, I think anyway, like the Jim O'Callaghan's of this world in this government, are Fianna Fáil ministers. So, all things taken in the round, yes, I do think.
Yeah, I wonder about the support from Micheál Martin at this stage. I mean, if you follow, and I'm sure you do, social media, it's very scathing commentary about Micheál Martin on that. Yeah.
Can I just say, Fran,
sure.
Not only are the people who are scathing about on Taoiseach Micheál Martin, not only are they members of the public who are just generally giving out on X, but I have had thousands of Fianna Fáil card-carrying members who actually helped to get me voted in, and they would have helped in the Fianna Fáil surge, in the Fianna Fáil election. I mean, they thrive on it. But these are people who are genuinely dismayed. So, lessons to be learned, Fran. Yes, we move on. Taoiseach Micheál Martin has my full support until somebody else says, I want to challenge him, or until he might say, do you know what, I am going to step down now. So it's business as usual. But can I just say, for the card-carrying members, for the backbenchers, for the county councillors, I am going to make sure that those recommendations and actions at the back of the report, the last 2 pages, that they are actioned and that they come to fruition, because there is top-down management, there's no doubt about it, in the Fianna Fáil executive, in HQ and so forth. And that form of communication, top-down, has got to be reversed completely. There's got to be involvement of the ordinary grassroots membership.
Right, but surely that could only begin with the removal of Micheál Martin. And
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
But that's his style. That's his style, is it not, Cynthia? You know?
No, I think Micheál is collaborative. I think he is. But I think he thinks it's less top-down than it is. So it actually needs, unfortunately, a big shock like this to bring everybody to their senses, but also not just to your senses, take the action. So, for example, when I got involved in Fianna Fáil, Fran, the first thing I said, the very first thing was, I said, where are all the women members? Where are all the women supporters? Where are all the women elected reps? And I spoke about this at Fianna Fáil's Women's Network. I spoke about it to Taoiseach. I spoke about it to HQ and to the executive and to the General Secretary and so forth, and the Assistant General Secretary. And I also spoke about OGRA. I said, where is the youth of the Fianna Fáil party? And not just the youth that are signed up members, the OGRA members, but where are the potential OGRA members and the potential women members? So that's an area of huge change that needs to be brought in as well.
Before I let you go, the European Parliament has voted on an amendment stating that the only biological woman can get pregnant and bear children. You voted no to the amendment. So you believe that somebody other than a biological woman, as I understand it, can get pregnant and bear a child, Cynthia?
No, I don't. I'll tell you now. There was a group of fringe conservative, right-wing, populist MEPs. They're called the ECR, Fran. And I want your listeners to know that support for this group would never be considered by me. And what they did was they submitted an amendment to this vote around whether biological females could give birth. Now, this had absolutely nothing to do with the actual vote itself, because this was a really important vote about access for all European women for safe and accessible abortions throughout the EU. Now, that's something that the Irish people voted for, and they supported overwhelmingly in a referendum, as I did. But these fringe conservative MEPs, they made absolutely no attempt to cooperate with the drafters of this original text. They tried to shoehorn this into a culture war as a way of hijacking the bigger vote, and so I voted against the amendment because it had nothing whatsoever to do with the vote at hand.
But does that mean you voted for something you don't believe? Because essentially your vote would tell us that you believe that somebody other than a biological woman can get pregnant and bear a child.
No, I'll tell you what it means. I voted against conservatism, right-wing, Eurosceptics and populists. And could I just say, one of the...
Right, but specifically, that's not the outcome, of your vote,
Listen, this is about a culture war. It was a deliberate attempt to obscure and to weave in for their own populist culture war purposes. It wasn't an amendment about solving problems. It was about dividing society into opposing camps. And I absolutely abhor that. And could I say in that regard, look at what Trump has done. Did you listen to Donna on the radio this morning talking to Morning Ireland? That poor granny from the United States who was incarcerated by ICE and Trump. That's what Trump is doing. He is sowing division deliberately. And look at the society and the problems that he's producing. Fran, we never want to go down that road. And I did say to you before, I know it was personally we spoke at an event in Tipperary, but I would love to come back on and discuss with you about the so-called rumour mill out there of mistrust and distrust about immigrants being guilty of committing crimes in Ireland. I do have some stats on that. I will come back in the new year if you wish about that. But nothing could be further from the truth based on the data.
Well, you'd be welcome on at any stage. But can I get from you then, do you believe, and I'm sorry to harper on it, but it's just your vote, do you believe that somebody other than a biological woman could get pregnant and bear a child?
What I believe is that it's absolutely obvious that only a biological woman like myself, Fran, and I've proved it twice, thank
Sure.
God, safe and sound, can have a baby. But we can't look, or produce a child, but we can't look at this vote in isolation. That's what the ECR wants you to do. And unfortunately,
Of course, but if you vote no to that, it is making a statement, is it not?
No, it's not. Well, I'll tell you, the statement that I made, that I'm certain that I made, was I do not support right-wing, conservative, Eurosceptics. If somebody wants to identify in a particular way, which is what they want us to talk about, they want us to talk about the trans issue. We all know that, right? But if somebody wants to identify in a particular way, and they're not hurting anybody, Fran, and I know lots of these people who do want to identify in a particular way, and they are not hurting anybody, why would me as an elected rep or anybody else stand in their way? My motto is live and let live.
Right, but you're a barrister, so I'm sure you would have looked to the UK Supreme Court and their ruling there, that legal definition of a woman based on biological sex.
Yes, I know all about that, but I'll tell you, the court decision in the UK has nothing whatsoever to do with this deliberate amendment which was aimed at sowing division. I believe in equality, Fran, you know that. I believe in free choice. I believe in people's right to choose. And this was about making sure that there was safe and accessible abortion throughout the EU. And remember, we voted for that and supported it overwhelmingly. And that's what I was doing in this vote by saying to the ECR, how dare you hijack this very important vote for your own little culture war? Now, others did it another way. Some of the MEPs abstained, and I understand MEP McNamara's reasoning and MEP Walsh's reasoning, but I had my own reasoning. But we came to the same conclusion that the ECR should not be supported in their right-wing conservative Euroscepticism and culture war. But could I say, you should ask some of the MEPs from Fine Gael how they voted, because they voted with ECR. So maybe you should ask them why.
Well, we'll certainly get an opportunity to do that. Cynthia, happy Christmas to you and yours, and thank you for your time. Gormil Mahagat, thank you. Cynthia Ni Murchu speaking to us there. 1800 938 007.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, hook on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, hook on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Significant concerns about youth addiction and mental health were raised at the December meeting of Tipperary County Council, where councillors received the findings of the 2024 Planet Youth Survey. Now, responding to the report, Cllr Shane Lee said the findings reflected realities that many families are facing but rarely discuss openly, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Shane.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to your listeners.
Good to talk to you today. Would you just tell our listeners something about what the report is saying?
Yes, I suppose, Fran, at our plenary meeting this month, we had a presentation done, as you rightly outlined, from the Planet Youth Tipperary survey that took place. And I suppose that survey and presentation to us rang alarm bells for me, but as I said, I wasn't surprised of the younger adolescents, as we call it, in this situation, where we spoke about vaping, anxiety, depression, alcohol, drugs, phone usage. And I suppose what I was really alarmed about, Fran, was the national average is 73%, and in Tipperary we're at 77% with alcohol. And I've been on your show many times, Fran, about my own journey in life and my own recovery in sobriety. For me, that rang alarm bells, but as I said, I wasn't surprised. And I suppose, Fran, look, it's a thing that we're all aware of, but sometimes, as I said, we can stick our hand in the sand until it comes to our own doors, or families in particular themselves don't know how to deal with situations like this.
Well, was it not a part of the finding, though, and I can't find it here in my notes, that youngsters were introduced to drinking by the family?
Yes, I think it was, I stand to be corrected on this, Fran, but I think it was 52% it was used where parents had gave their children alcohol in the home.
Wow.
And that's worrying. That's a worrying stat and statistic. And then there was another part of it where
Sorry, I just found, in fact, it's 62% of parents, Shane, that gave children alcohol, which is a remarkable figure, isn't it?
Yeah, and then, Fran, like the knock-on effect of that, where 12% witnessed violence at home. And then there was another part of the presentation where it said 11% said their parents had alcohol or drug problems. And that's, again, worrying, because you've young teenagers that are dealing with that and witnessing that at home. And I have said it before, Fran, on your show, I think that, COVID, I'll go back to COVID-19, has done untold damage to people because everybody was at home at that point in time.
Yeah.
And absolutely, Fran, I have no issue with people taking a drink and doing it sensibly, but, when it's happening at the home and the parents are doing this, it's alarming. It's alarming for young teenagers to be witnessing this, and that sometimes can become the norm.
Vaping was discussed at the meeting as well, and some of the stats about vaping as well. Does that concern you particularly, Shane?
It does, Fran, because it all comes back to what I would class somewhere down along the line as addicted. You can become addicted to vaping, you can become addicted to drink, you can become addicted to drugs, you become addicted to phone, you can become addicted to food. There's so many different aspects out there, but yes, it is alarming, Fran, and it's what can become within vapes, and many different times we've heard situations where it wasn't just the vape. We've seen that in our school place where, people have to be brought to hospital because of this, and it's worrying, Fran, it's worrying. And I suppose while we speak about the problems, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I did say that at the meeting, and I would be not one for bragging about myself. What I've said is, when I got into recovery, I thought my life was over. And that was the biggest blessing that ever happened to me.
And when you say you thought your life was over, in terms of what? In terms of going and having a good time and all of that sort of stuff, Shane? Is that what you mean?
Yes, absolutely, Frank. Because when you're a young person, you think, you can't be out and you can't do this and you can't do that. And, and that was far from the truth. But I suppose when you go back that far, you're just... When you don't know that you don't know, I suppose that's the situation, Fran. And for anybody listening here this morning, that, we can always speak about the problem, but I said there is solutions. And it's a day at a time, and this is a time where, families get together and people will be happy, and, sometimes they can get over it. But like we often see in the fellowship, where in January you'd see an influx of people coming through the doors. And, like with Alcoholics Anonymous, I just speak about that. It's on 7 days of the week. It's a free place to go. There's no one judged. It's totally confidential. It's experience, strength and hope shared with men and women. And I go on further, Fran, which I also said at the meeting on that day was, many times on your show I hear it on a daily basis when we speak about the word mental health, and in particularly with men, where they feel that they might have nowhere to turn, and that's not being sexist in saying that. I'm just being genuine and sincere. Men will bottle things more than women in particular. Where would you get an organisation where men and women can go? And I've said this before, Fran, there's 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the first step mentions alcoholism, and the other 11 steps about living. So, like, for me, I'll just tell you, like, if I have a bad day today, which I can have, I'm human, I make mistakes, I can go to a meeting tonight, and I don't even have to speak about drink. I speak about what happened to me within the day. And that's invaluable for me, and that's where I go back to say that, when I went in at the start, I thought my life was over, and now it's the biggest blessing that I have in my life, to have a place where I can go, where, as I said, is everybody is welcome, everybody's felt wanted, everybody cares.
Yeah, and I wonder, when you see stats as well, Shane, like, 1 in 4 young people are thinking of self-harming or suicide. That is so frightening. Is there an argument to be made for somebody like yourself or a group of people that maybe would present to young people and give them real life experiences? And what about that as a partial solution?
Yeah, absolutely, Fran. And what I would say is, look, people come to me privately all the time, and I would meet people privately all the time. But there's one thing I will say, Fran, is all I can do in my situation is share my experience, my strength and my hope. I'm not a counsellor, an addiction counsellor, to go and start playing God in people's lives. I just share my story and what's working for me. And yes, mental health, that is very, very alarming, Fran. And I'm picking that up through my side of politics, where, you know, families feel that, you know, and look, Fran, listen, I have kids myself. I often see it with my own somebody. Sometimes it's easier to get a snap or a WhatsApp or a private message than have a conversation. And that's like, and I've witnessed that. Like, I've witnessed situations. I give an example, and you speak about mental health, but I'm talking about connection here.
Yes.
I remember one time we were up when Brody was playing at Shamrock Rovers, and he'd say Fran Curry, he'd be snapping Fran flat out. And I witnessed one day, I watched Brody walking up the alleyway, and Fran Curry was standing there, and they hardly said hello together.
My God.
And I said it to Brody after. I said, "You're telling me all the time that Fran Curry's always snapping your buddy." But it's the connection. And is that a confidence thing? Is it, you know, I don't know, but I just experienced that. And that's the way younger people carry on today. They hardly speak to each other in person, but yet they bang the phones over WhatsApp and Snapchat and whatever goes on.
Just for listeners to point out, you were using me there as an example.
Oh, yes, as an example, yes, exactly.
Just in case people take that up. Just in case people take that up wrong. But yeah, I agree with you. But I mean, the genie is out of the bottle on it, though, Shane. You'd wonder how you can change that in any way at this point.
Yeah, but I suppose, Fran, I'm going to say this on the flip side of all of that, right? While it's worrying, the younger generation, in certain situations where I have seen it, do have each other's backs.
Yeah.
You know, they're sharp, they're clever. Yeah, like, you know, they're like, I'm not coming down. I suppose the point I'm trying to make here is that together, wherever that may be, I've seen that this survey now is going to be carried out, and you know, you have the Royal College of Surgeons involved, you have the ETBs, you have the HSC, and they're all going to come together and do a community response steering group for 2026. So, like, you know, it's something that's been identified, but action speaks louder than words can. And as I said, is like, all I can do is, if there's anyone listening, if there's any one thing that I could do to help anybody in the darkest of moments, I'm always available to speak to someone. And sometimes, man, it's not always about medication. Sometimes it's just about having somebody to speak to that's willing to listen. And sometimes people find it hard to speak to the loved ones at home, to say that, look, this has gone wrong or that's gone wrong. You know, and that has happened to me from time to time, where people just approach me privately and have trust.
And you have no problem in the least in having those conversations.
But I would say here is, I'm not God. Like this there's lots of people in fellowship all over the county, all over the country, and like there's people in everyone's area, I could say, that attend the fellowships, and like if people want to approach them and get a bit of experience or a bit of background of what's going on, there's absolutely no issue.
All right. Shane, happy Christmas to you and your family. Thanks for coming on with us, Shane. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
How about you now? That's Councillor Shane Lee speaking to us there, making reference to that survey that was put before Tipperary County Council at the December meeting, and Planet Youth, and they undertook that survey among 1,737 young people from 23 secondary schools and education and training centres across Tipperary, with most of the respondents there being aged between 15 and 16 years of age. So it is rather scary indeed. What do you think of that? 083 311 3311.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1800 938 007.
Now, as part of our Friday panel from Nina last week, we were talking about the government's perceived failure in supporting households and businesses. Now, we had a huge reaction to the conversation. A number of people came on to agree that there's little support for normal households out there, and particularly for businesses. And one of the people who made contact with us was Dermot, and he joins me now. Dermot, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
Good.
How are you on this Monday morning?
Sure, sparkling, Dermot. Absolutely sparkling altogether. Tell me about you, though, Dermot. You've been in business in Roscrea for many years, I think. Have you?
Yes, we've been in business for almost 100 years. My dad had a garage before me, and I took over from him. So now, 2 years ago, I felt I was under attack from the county council because they increased my rates by 25%. And when I approached the council, I said, this is not sustainable. The person said, I'd see you in court. So, I mean, that doesn't seem anyway trying to help people stay in business. Roscrea is a ghost town. All the businesses, our 3 hotels are closed. We have 2,000 migrants between Racket Hall, Shanross, Convent of the Sacred Heart, Duncairn Arms. There's refugees everywhere, like I think. But there's no chance of trying to keep ordinary people in business.
And you're in the motor business, I understand, Dermot, is it?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and is that badly affected?
It's more the tax that people think that you can keep paying tax. Like in the old days when I paid my rates, I had my rubbish collected, I had the water connected. All that stuff now is all extra. Like my bins are now 500 a year, and my water is 500 a year. On top of that, and my ESB is 3 times what it used to be. You know, when they took the rates off houses, they doubled the commercial rates, and now the rates are gone back on houses, but the commercial rates are still climbing. Can we afford to keep 40 people in the lap of luxury in Enoch? Well, we have 40 county councillors. Do we really need that many county councillors?
Well, I was going to ask you about keeping your own business operational at this point, Dermot. I mean, is that something you're looking at this point?
Yes, we're closing. We can't keep going.
You're closing?
Yes, yeah. There's one section here in Roscrea. It's called the Mall, and there's 6 businesses on it. Currently, there's 3 of them closed. There used to be a barber, an Italian cafe, and dry cleaners, Martin's dry cleaners. All 3 of them are closed. Even like the main Volkswagen dealer is Spooner's is closed. Roscrea, they even closed our guard station. We used to have 3 sergeants and 15 guards. Now we have nobody. If you have something go wrong, well, you call and the answer is, and they might send out a car from Templemore to drive around the town to see what's going on. So it really, we get very poor feedback for our rates, commercial rates, I feel.
And when are you going to wrap up your business, Dermot?
Oh, next year.
That's very sad. I mean...
after 100 years.
After 100 years.
Yeah. And there we had a fire recently, God help them, the people in Super Value. That was a hub for the town, and that's gone. And the restaurant behind it, Lourdes, that closed as well. So, and then Patterson's, the hardware beside them, they had to close because of smoke damage. But at least Lourdes has reopened down in the old shopping centre, so they are still keeping going, that kind of thing. But like Roscrea is a dead town. And the council now are going to spend $2 million. They're going to close Castle Street, one of the main arteries of the town, and put bricks on the ground so nobody can drive up or down, and nobody thinks that now the people that are living in the town, where are the people going to collect their old age pensions or anything like that?
And I wouldn't mind, I drove through the town. Well, I often drive through Roscrea, but I drove through the town recently and I saw a lot of smaller shops, all operational, and I thought this looks great on the main street there. But are you telling me that's not...
That's not the case. If you go down the main street, every second shop is closed.
Yeah.
Or even, there's all sorts of rumours about different places.
Well, you don't share them with me now, because if they're just rumours, Dermot. Yeah. But are you saying to me that other businesses could be closing in the near future as well? Is that what you're saying to me?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there is no leniency with the council at all, I can't think. They want their money and that's it. And like the last letter I got from them, they say, well, we're going to add interest to the rates if you don't pay. So, I mean, I'm a 75-year-old pensioner struggling to survive. And, it's terrible to be under such stress and pressure from the council.
What about local representatives? I mean, have you spoken to them about this, Dermot?
Yes. Nobody. Well, how do you get a turkey to vote for Christmas? So, they need the money coming in to keep them in the lifestyle they're accustomed to.
Well, you see, what they will tell you is that there's not enough money coming from central coffers into local authorities anyway, and that's why they need to up the rates, and that's why they need to do this.
Yeah, but I mean, do we need 40 county councillors?
Well, it's a very big county.
Absolutely, but there's not that many businesses in it. You know, like it's a diminishing return. At some stage, you have to say, well, look, guys, you have to take a pay cut somewhere along the way.
Can I ask you to look 10 years down the road for me where Roscrea is concerned? What do you think, if I'm driving through Roscrea in 10 years' time, what would my experience be, do you think?
Oh, it'll be a ghost town. Unless something comes out of the migrants that they inject some life into the town. But then I don't know that they have great money to spend.
So you're saying the future does not look good?
Not good. But just like, that's what made me call you. The guy is talking about Clonmel being devastated, every second shop closed. It's the same in Roscrea. I didn't realise it was so bad in the south as well, south of the county, that the same thing is going on down there.
Yeah, it's and the business people you would meet and talk to and interact with, Dermot, are they of the same mind as you?
Absolutely. Anyone I talk to in Roscrea, because I've been talking, saying, "Oh, can we not band together and take on the council?" You know, that you have people in a nice government job. They don't understand how hard it is out there trying to make all this money.
Yeah, you sound as if you're very cynical about the whole thing at this point, Dermot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think it can be any other way. To be honest with you. But I'm sorry to be like that on a Christmas week.
Right, but I mean, that's how you feel, and you're entitled to feel like that. But particularly with a business, though, that has, you know, such a history as yours, a family history and stuff, you being the one to close it must weigh heavily on you, does it?
It is very heavy. It's my dad came out of a public house in Rosemary Street, so like my parents, my grandparents on both sides are both in the graveyard here in Roscrea. So we're Roscrea through and through, and like to turn your back on the town is really sad. But you're left with no option.
And do you have many people working for you there, Dermot?
I have two people working.
Right. Okay. Well, Dermot, we wish you well, and as I say, it's sad news to hear of a business closing down, and particularly closing down because of the reasons you cite there. Good to talk to you. Happy Christmas to you, Dermot, in as much as it can be.
Good to talk to you.
You too. Thanks very much indeed, Dermot. That's Dermot speaking to us from Roscrea today, a businessman in Roscrea. Pessimistic about the future, to say the very least there. How do you feel about that? 083 311 3311.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Hook On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Hook On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Hook On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today, 1800 938 007. Now, at the very top of the programme, I was speaking to MEP Cynthia Ni Murchu, and towards the end of our conversation, I spoke about her vote on that amendment that stated that only biological women can get pregnant and bear children, and she voted that she did believe that somebody other than a biological woman can get pregnant and bear a child. Now, she gave us reasoning as to why she voted in that fashion, but we got a huge reaction to that. Many people on, and some insulting stuff coming in there, I have to say, as well. And but generally nobody agreeing with her stance on that has made contact with us so far anyway. But One listener on, though, about the earlier aspect of her conversation where we were talking about road safety and the like, saying, I don't disagree with the phone, but the new modern cars with a screen as big as an iPad, with everything on it from radio to heaters to Google Maps to phones, I honestly believe it's more of a distraction than a phone, but you don't get penalty points for using it or for looking at it. I suppose it would be very hard to police it, wouldn't it? Anyway, the listener goes on to say, God be with the day when the older cars had knobs and you didn't have to be distracted looking at them, but could work them by the feel of your hands without looking at a big screen. Just my thoughts. Happy Christmas to all, says one of our listeners. Mark was on to say, please don't let this be the last impression of Roscrea on Christmas week. And this is referring to my conversation with Dermot earlier on there, who told us he's closing down his business in Roscrea next year after 100 years. Anyway, Mark says, the small town of Roscrea has struggled, but we must not run down our town. We have fantastic local businesses and cafes going above and beyond to keep their doors open and to create a fantastic shopping experience. And I would ask everyone to support local this Christmas, regardless of where in the county you are. So there you go. 083 311 3311. The annual Sports Awards, RTE Sports Awards, that is, took place on Saturday night. Now, Rory McIlroy has scooped up the RTE Sports Person of the Year award, which was no surprise to anybody, really, while Stephen Bradley was named RTE Sports Manager of the Year after leading Shamrock Rovers to a historic League and FAI Cup double. Now, while it was a night of glitz and glamour as usual, many people in Tipperary were unhappy with some of the results, and I'm glad to be joined now by our own Stephen Gleeson. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today. Yeah, we were unhappy with some aspects of this in Tipperary, Stephen. Is that the feedback you're getting?
I suppose a lot of people felt that the Tipperary team or Liam Cahill or, the one or two of the top players from Tipperary possibly could have been included in an award, but it's a very broad field, I suppose, and the panel, by their nature, I suppose these things are always subjective and they're always, open to interpretation, and it depends, I suppose, the background of the people picking the winners, and there's so many mitigating factors, I think, within a sports awards that they always create a bit of controversy, and it's just probably nature and powerful of the course. But I suppose Liam Cahill and the likes of Jake Morris or John McGrath for an individual award, or you're looking at a team award maybe as well. They were all things that were under consideration for a lot of people from Tipperary over the weekend.
Should it be divided out more, though, into Gaelic or soccer? And I mean, I was just looking at the Sports Manager of the Year nominees there, for example, and you have the likes of our own Aidan O'Brien against Cathal Murray of Camogie, and Liam Cahill in there as well, and then as I said, Stephen Bradley of soccer. As you say, it's a very broad field there, isn't it?
Yeah, there's probably room, Fran, to vary it, where you have a Gaelic Games Manager of the Year award, and then you have maybe team sports, and then you're looking at other sports, and then maybe an overall award, because the broadness of that is huge. And you're talking people there that are within professional sport as well, and then you're talking about people who are giving up their time freely in an amateur game, and they're all cast in together, I suppose, within under that awards umbrella, and that can create it's probably just there's too much variety within the choice, maybe.
Yeah, and in the, as you know, I'm not a sporty, so I'm not in your world of sport, Stephen, but in the world of sport, I mean, how seriously are the RTE Sports Awards taken?
I think all these sports awards are kind of lovely accolade at the end of the year, but for actual competitors and those taking part, it's the actual thrill of playing and the thrill of being part of something that really matters. And at the end of it, these are a lovely piece of silverware to have at the end of the year, and that you're marked as being outstanding in your field is a huge thing as well. But I would say overall, those getting them would be happy to get them, but it wouldn't be a goal at the start of the year that I want to win that RTE Sports Award, and that's sports awards by their nature. I know BBC had one over the weekend there. Rory McIlroy picked it up, and then winning the RTE Sports Award, and I think he was out in America as well at a different sport, so he wasn't even present there. So, like, it's a varying degrees, I think, and it just, some people put a lot of credence into it and others don't, as simple as that.
So 2025 then, Stephen, drawing to a close. What about your own personal sporting highlight? Is that a fair question even, Stephen?
Yeah, it's an incredible broad question as well, I suppose. And if you look at the sporting year, you're looking at all the fantastic achievements, and it probably does come down to what sports you're into yourself, really. It's where you pick from. And like, for me personally, the highlight wasn't even on the sporting field. It was just after it was when Upperchurch Strumban won the Munster Intermediate Championship Cup above in the Mackey stand in Limerick. The cup was being presented to Keith Ryan, the captain, and this guttural cheer went up from the crowd who were on the field, and mainly made up of parishioners and people in the locality and people who had friends or relations or, people that they knew playing on the field, and they were all there, and just a huge cheer. And I thought that was a real highlight for me personally, because I guess I realised the history of it, and the first title for Upperchurch Strumban to win a Munster title like that, and it's the biggest win in the parish since the 1890s, when Strumban won the county senior championship with a really strong team that went on to play for Tipperary back in the day. So it's a huge win, the biggest in well over 100 years within the parish in Gaelic games, and that tradition has been there for Gaelic games in the sport. So to see the crowd and a huge amount of supporters on the field, and the darkness behind and the lights on the pitch, and the cheer that went up was huge as the cup was hoisted. And I thought that personally for me was a super moment this season.
What about other sporting moments then that stand out for you, Stephen?
Well, broadly speaking, I suppose looking at a key moment in a match, I'd have to pick Oisin O'Donoghue's goal against Kilkenny. I thought that was just a tremendous piece of skill, first and foremost. Second, just as someone being calm and doing the simple things well and holding their nerve. And there was 4, 5, 6 Kilkenny players all around him, and he had to just turn the hurley at a certain angle to get the shot away. Second, to put it on target, and third, to have enough force to send it past a goalkeeper like Owen Murphy. So I thought it was just a tremendous strike, and the celebration then with the arms up would remind you of Nicky English or Maradona or one of these iconic heroes of old in the sport. And I suppose the stand erupted with Tipperary supporters, and I thought that was a huge moment across the season. And another one, Fran, that stands out for me is when the homecoming took place on the Monday night inside in Thurles after the Liam McCarthy Cup win. There was great music. A lot of them from Tipperary were involved on the stage and singing on the stage, and the crowds that showed up, 40,000 up to that, I think it was, and the team came out and had time for everyone and met everyone and greeted them, and I think that was really appreciated by all the supporters, and the time that the players have taken over the past few months in particular to just spend time with their supporters has been huge. And that's because, I guess, of the humble beginnings this season, where they came from a low ebb to get to the heights that they reached in July when they won that All-Ireland. So that evening in Thurles stood out for me, and just to see the sea of colour there, and it was an evening that kids will always remember, that they were at that homecoming, and that people were there to experience a final that we hadn't for a while. And maybe, Fran, that ties in too with the RTE Sports Awards. People probably thought the journey of the Tipperary team from very low beginnings to a high finishing point was probably something key for them. So I guess that's why you might consider it from Tipperary, that a Tipperary manager should have got an award, or a team, because of the journey that they travelled. But I guess on the national stage that mightn't always be realised, and people who were strong across the season might have picked it up first. But for me, the homecoming in Thurles was just a fantastic occasion, and then the cup went all around the county as well. And it's great to see that the cup has been visiting, nursing homes, schools, hospitals, a lot of events, and there's a lot of other events going on that people haven't got to enjoy the cup at, and that's a pity too, but you'd hope that it'll still be going around for the next while, and as long as Tip have it.
Well, hopefully so. I can highly recommend Noel Dundon's book on that magical journey indeed to the All-Ireland success there. It's just a fantastic read altogether. Outside of Tipperary then, Stephen, I mean, what about, like, I don't know, the Irish soccer team, for example, the Ryder Cup success in the golf?
Absolutely, Fran. I think that Tri-Parrots goals against Hungary and Portugal in particular were just fantastic. That really captured the imagination of the whole country. I think that soccer kind of has that power every now and again when it is Ireland facing a stronger power, perceived as a stronger power anyhow, in the likes of Portugal, and to topple Portugal in Dublin was just a fantastic evening. The crowd were believing. I was at the match myself, and the atmosphere was just superb, like it really was incredible. And then Ronaldo got sent off, and Ireland went on and won the game, had to go to Hungary again against all the odds, and up stepped Tri-Parrot with some fantastic goals, and that winner, couple of minutes left, and he just outstretched that foot and tipped it in past the keeper, and everyone just realising what it meant, I think. And Ireland with a shout now to get to the World Cup next summer, Czechia in March, win that, and you're into a game probably against Denmark, and then it's off to the North America, off to the continent, and you could be playing in Canada or in Mexico or in the USA as the tournament goes on. So it's a very exciting time for Irish football, and Tri-Parrot, one of the highlights of the year without a doubt, his goals. Rory McIlroy, you mentioned there as well, Fran.
Yeah.
Huge golf achievements, I mean, to win the Masters, the British Open, the GPA and the US Open is huge, and very few have achieved what he's achieved this year. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods is probably the standout winner across time, and to have an Irishman in there in a sport that's played worldwide in so many different places is absolutely massive. So he's only the sixth man in history to complete golf's Grand Slam of 4 majors, and that is a huge achievement by Rory McIlroy. So he had just a tremendous year. We had the Ryder Cup win as well. He played a part in that. The European Ryder Cup team that's in Ireland in the next couple of years down in Limerick, so there's going to be great excitement and a huge build up to that as well. But I would say Rory McIlroy's golf achievements and Tri-Parrot's goals were massive highlights, and very hard to topple that in terms of excitement and in terms of a big cheer. But again, it depends what sports you're into, and I think that dictates everything as you look at all these sports awards.
And just if you briefly look to 2026 for me then, Stephen, in terms of what you're looking at, I mean, hurling has to be top of the list, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose here in Tipperary it's always key, and again, Tipperary will be in with a big shout. I remember it was this time last year, had my book launch, Land of Blue and Gold, and Owen Kelly was talking at it, and someone asked him from the crowd, have Tipperary any chance in 2025? And he said, you know what, win the first 2 games against Galway and Wexford in the league and everyone will start believing. And he said that a Tipperary team is never far away from winning a big trophy, and that's how it panned out, exactly like that in 2025. Owen Kelly hit it spot on, and again in 2026 it'll be like that for Tipperary, coming good at the right time, getting the breaks, and you never know where it'll lead to again. But Munster is going to be so competitive because you've got Cllr, Cork, Limerick, who will be ultra strong again. Cllr probably on their last leg, so you'd fancy that it would be Cork, Limerick and Tip coming out. But then Waterford were so close to knocking out Cork last year as well in the Munster Championship, and I think Waterford could be a team that, if they can get things right and get playing well at the right time and get 2 wins, they're always good for 1 win, but if they could get 2 wins in that, they could push on, and you could have a surprise factor like that. Leinster are looking at Kilkenny in the hurling. For the Tipperary footballers, Niall Fitzgerald is in. That's going to be huge for him in the league. Just get a good grounding in the league and see where the championship goes. And I think, nationwide, Fran, the Republic of Ireland soccer team are going to take centre stage with that World Cup game in March.
Yeah.
If they win that, it'll be a superb summer again. Everyone will be following the Irish team. And
credit unions will be working overtime, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. Arthur, it's brilliant, Fran. And it's all year round. People think there's only a few matches here and there in sport. Like, we're back into it there. The start of January, there's games starting up again. Finbars are in action against Tipperary and the Camogie and Thurles, and then you're into the Munster League is straight away. Tipperary are back in action. So the games come around very, very fast. And, I was there in Templetuohy on Saturday. Oisin O'Donoghue, another brilliant goal against Kilkenny. The hurlers will be back in action. Tip beat Kilkenny in that game for Mary's Meals on Saturday. Great turnout there in Templetuohy for it, and it was a great occasion. So I think it just all comes around very, very quickly here, and that's the way people involved in sport like it. It's more a lifestyle thing than anything else, that people just play or compete all year round, and that's something that has probably changed over the years. There's not really an off-season anymore. No matter what sport you're in, there's always something to be working towards. So 2026, you'd hope Tip will go again in all codes, obviously, and that the Irish soccer team will make it to the World Cup. They'll be the big ones early in the year anyway.
All right. Random question for you from one of our listeners. Are Ireland and Scotland playing a shinty hurling game this Christmas?
They played a match about a few weeks ago there, and it was over in Scotland, and Owen Connolly from Cashel was part of the Ireland team that went over and played in that, as was Darren McCarthy.
It's like a version of hurling or something, is it? Is that what it is, Stephen?
Yeah, I suppose if you went back 2,000 or 3,000 years, the game with sticks would have been common, and in Ireland it turned into Imaniacs and became hurling now in our era, and in Scotland that game would have developed into shinty, and they reckon settlers brought it to Canada and it became ice hockey as well. So like they're all variations, I suppose, of hand-to-eye coordination, and you have a stick in your hand and you're hitting a ball, and like a lot of sports would have evolved like that, I guess. Tennis, you could argue the same as well. Squash, they're more racket sports, but at the same time it would be the same principles and the same skill levels. So shinty would be, a distant relation of hurling, if you want to put it like that, Fran, and it hasn't really captured the imagination in Britain the way that hurling has here. I think they don't have 82,000 at matches, and they're probably a bit more amateur than Gaelic games, because you have to look at it now, hurling and Gaelic football are semi-professional, and those lads, I think it's only a matter of time before they get paid to play, and that's
actually, one of our listeners with that very question for you, saying, will you ask Stephen, are we any closer to seeing our GAA teams going professional? They give such an amount to their communities and to their country.
Yeah, I think so, Fran. Yeah, I think it's only really a matter of time. I would find it very hard to believe there'll be a couple more generations of players that'll just say, we're doing it for the jersey. I mean, it is grand on one level, but the amount of time that they're giving up and the amount of energy that goes into it is absolutely huge. And can it sustain it? I don't know. You're looking at £100 for a ticket for a match. It's overpriced for people who aren't professionals, really, if you look at it in that regard. So £100 for the All-Ireland ticket, and the players getting nothing. You ask anyone from around the world and they would be amazed that they're amateurs, So it is kind of just a mindset that's keeping it amateur here, I think, currently at the moment. But I couldn't see that continuing if you were to ask me in 50 years' time, and hopefully we'll all be around, Fran, and I would say that hurling they will be getting paid at some level. A grant perhaps will be the start of it, that they get a grant to play and that they get expenses for what they're missing, much multiples of what they're getting now, I would imagine, because they're getting very little for the amount of time they put in. The ladies footballers, the camogie players, hurlers, footballers, you compare that to League of Ireland soccer players who are on professional contracts during the season, and rugby players as well. So I would say it's probably heading that way. When is a matter of time, really, and that's a question that'll be debated, I'd say, long into the winter.
I'd imagine so, indeed. Stephen, a happy Christmas to you and yours, and thanks for all the contributions during the year. Great to talk to you as always.
Thanks, Fran. A pleasure as always, and happy Christmas to all your listeners and yourself and Leanne.
Thanks very much, indeed, and good morning to you, Stephen. That's our own Stephen Gleeson there, and of course Stephen's many publications in good bookstores, and a nice idea for gifts over Christmas as well. We'll take a break. We're back with some global news in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Welcome back to Tip Today, and it's time for global news. And as usual on a Monday, glad to be joined by Thomas Conway of the Nenagh Guardian. Good morning to you, Thomas.
Good morning, Fran.
Thanks for coming into us today. It has to be the Epstein files, I guess. Would you just remind people who and what exactly are the Epstein files?
Yeah, so after months and I suppose years of waiting, a trove of documents were released on Friday, known as the Epstein files. Now, it's not all of them, it's not all encompassing, and Trump's Attorney General, Todd Blanche, has said that more documents will be revealed over the coming weeks. But the Epstein files relate to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who was, by all accounts, a powerful man and wielded a lot of influence over some of the most powerful people on earth. He was found to have been guilty of sex trafficking, trafficking minors and underage girls. And this all emerged in around 2004. He was subsequently tried. Eventually, he died by suicide in prison in 2019, or at least that is the theory.
Yes.
There are conspiracy theories around it. So the Epstein files were a huge batch of documents relating to him. They contained travel records, they contained photos, archived material, purporting, there was a conspiracy theory purporting that Epstein was at the centre of essentially a group of paedophiles at the centre of power in Washington. And many of the MAGA faithful, the Trump supporters, had been intent on seeing these files because they believed that these people needed to be exposed. And it's not just, I suppose, the MAGA supporters. You have people from across the political spectrum, Democrats as well. I suppose the big question people are asking, what did we learn from the trove of documents that were released on Friday? Not an awful lot that we didn't know before. I think it signalled how powerful and influential Jeffrey Epstein was. I mean, he was pictured with Bill Clinton in a swimming pool. There was pictures of him. There was one picture of Donald Trump which was subsequently withdrawn and then put out again for use. Other celebrities to be included in the files: Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Chris Tucker, Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, and of course Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Unflattering images of him at Sandringham, the royal estate in the UK. So it's disturbing stuff, really.
No, it's important to point out that just because people are photographed
Indeed.
with Epstein, I mean, it could be just a photograph.
Yeah, it doesn't imply guilt.
Yeah.
They could have been just with him, and he moved in those circles.
Yes.
I mean, as I said, he was a financier. That's how he amassed his wealth, and his wealth was so significant. He owned an island and properties all over the globe, and this was, I suppose, how he got the access to these powerful individuals. The big question, I suppose, that emerges in the wake of the release of documents on Friday was, was Donald Trump, to what extent was Donald Trump involved with Jeffrey Epstein?
And did we learn anything more about that?
Well, interestingly, I was watching Friday night. He had a big press conference with pharmaceutical executives. For once, he refused to take questions afterwards. Now, that is untypical of Donald Trump.
What is that telling you? What is that saying to you?
I think it's signal that he doesn't want to be probed on the issue. There are obviously more documents to be released. He has consistently denied that he was involved with Epstein once this bad stuff emerged.
He said he fell out with him about 2004 or something?
2004, yeah. And he said he had a friend. It's pretty clear he had a close enough friendship with him. There are pictures documenting that prior to 2004, but after that he realised the gravity, I suppose, of Epstein's crimes.
But the fallout was about a business deal, I understand.
Yeah, and there were allegations that Epstein was stealing workers from his Mar-a-Lago estate, and they fell out over that.
All right. Okay.
So it wasn't directly related to what Epstein was doing, but certainly I just could not get over the amount of power and influence that Epstein had.
And speaking of which, will you tell me about the Downing Street aspect?
I thought that was very interesting. There was a picture of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is, I suppose, Epstein's partner in crime. She's currently in prison, tried for sex trafficking or aiding and abetting it. A picture emerged of her outside the door of 10 Downing Street. Now, it's subsequently emerged that the picture was taken in or around 2004.
So who was
Tony Blair would have been in power. So there is no allegation against Tony Blair here. But how she ended up, I mean, not, you can't just walk up to 10 Downing Street and take a photo outside the door. It's heavily guarded. There's heavy security. So
she would have had to have been invited there, is that what you're saying?
So that prompts all sorts of questions. In what capacity was she visiting Downing Street? Why on earth was she close to the corridors of power in the UK? We know how close she was in the US, but also in the UK. And a lot of Epstein's links extend into the United Kingdom, so it's very interesting. He had his fingerprints everywhere.
The thousands of pages that have not been released, Thomas, why haven't they been released, by the way, first of all?
Well, that is the question. They say they didn't have enough. The US Justice Department, that is, the Department of Justice, says they did not have enough time to go through the documents in full, that there are so many of them. Because this was prompted by a legislation passed by a Democrat and a Republican a number of weeks ago, mandating the US government to release the files, mandating the Department of Justice to release the files by last Friday. So the fact that they haven't done so, they're actually, what they're doing is illegal because the deadline was last Friday. But Trump has bypassed Congress before and has been in defiance of laws. And,
Right. And in terms of the redacting and the like, who's responsible? Who makes the decision on that? So
apparently the redacting is done so as to preserve the anonymity of victims. And on one level you can see that, obviously, you want to protect the victims.
So it's victims that are redacted.
Yeah, but that's the theory. But I mean, there are heavily redacted pages in this. There are entire pages that are blacked out. Literally, you have a blank page with a black square on them because the information is blanked out. Photographs, blanked out faces, all sorts of material like that, and that has proven very frustrating, as you'd imagine, for the people.
Is there cover up here?
Yeah, that's the major question, and I think it's no coincidence that in this first trove of files, Bill Clinton features heavily. And not Donald Trump. I think there was a degree of media, more than a degree, a good touch of media management here. The files were probably managed and choreographed so that they would put out a certain narrative. And I'd imagine the Department of Justice officials are working overtime in order to present the most flattering narrative of Donald Trump. So yeah, that is the question. Like, Trump overpromised on this and he underdelivered with the cache of files that he released. So is there a cover-up? I mean, it looks for all the world like a cover-up, but it's the one thing that Trump has not been able to brush aside. Everything over the course of the past 10 years, he's proven himself to be politically bulletproof, but not on the Epstein issue, because it comes from within his own support base. They want these files to be released, and they want them released in full. And I should say, the timing to release it around Christmas is also very strategic. It's kind of somewhat of a silly season, and people kind of turn off from the news to a certain extent. But yeah, it's the whole process has been managed chaotically by the Trump administration, and it's the one issue that continues to bite. So we'll see what the coming weeks produce.
Right, it's going to be very interesting indeed. The renaming of the Kennedy Centre as well.
The Trump Kennedy Centre, God, yeah. I mean, John F. Kennedy will be turning in his grave, I would imagine. That emerged over the course of the weekend. The Trump Kennedy Centre is in Washington, or the Kennedy Centre, Trump Kennedy, and Trump has now added his name to it. This is part of his kind of restructuring of institutions. He's building a ballroom on the White House, and doing all these sorts of things. I don't know if you saw, there's a line of American presidents, of portraits of former American presidents in the West Wing, and Trump now has a little paragraph of his descriptions of him, or of his, so Joe Biden underneath it is the worst president in history, this kind of stuff.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but
I know. Well, yeah, you have to smirk at some bits of it. But
so he's adding these little plaques.
Yes, with his own tribute.
All right, can I take a break? We'll be back with more global news from Thomas in a moment.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1800 938 007. Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tipfm.com.
And you're welcome back. And Thomas is still with me, and we're looking at global news. You're going to have a look at the key moments of 2025. And of course, needless to say, we're talking about global issues here, just in case people say, what about what happened here in Ireland? We're looking at global stuff here. So where do you want to even start with this, Thomas?
I suppose the obvious place to start is Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 12 months in which he remade the world in his image, essentially.
It's very biblical, Thomas.
Yeah, well, and he signalled as much. He signalled it throughout the election campaign in 2024. And from the moment he took office in this January and started signing those blizzard of executive orders, it was clear that this was going to be different this time around. And it was very different. I mean, among the moments to stick out, Liberation Day, the tariffs that upended the kind of economic order. He upended the post-war geopolitical order by kind of positioning himself closer to Vladimir Putin and Ukraine. You had that, I think, memorable and infamous spot with Vladimir Zelensky in the Oval Office. And if you were to ask me, do I have a moment of the year, a defining moment that stuck out, it would be that.
Would it indeed?
Yeah, I thought that was just, it stopped everyone in their tracks. The fact that this could happen in front of the cameras, with the cameras rolling in the Oval Office.
It's a remarkable piece of history.
It is,
really
yeah.
is.
And I suppose the prologue to it was that meeting in the Vatican and Pope Francis's funeral. I thought that was an iconic image. Now, what will come of it, how time will reflect on it, I'm not sure. But that was the image of Trump and Zelensky seated next to each other in St. Peter's Basilica. I thought that was might be an image for the ages, depending on how the war emerges. But then you move on and Pope Francis's death and the election of Pope Leo. Hugely significant moments for
who recently spoke out, and I would gather he's not a fan of Mr. Trump.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And I've heard, and it was one of the first times. You see, he's so multilingual. He usually speaks in Italian, or Spanish or whatever. But I heard him speak in English, and he expressed skepticism with that national security strategy and the way the European or American relations have developed with Europe. So maybe he's starting to speak out a little bit. But other things, there were lots of other things that happened. I mean, Friedrich Merz became Chancellor of Germany. That's one of the most powerful positions in the world. Another moment that stuck out for me was the Canadian general election and the rise of Mark Carney, the new Canadian Prime Minister.
Why was that?
Essentially,
so
because he turned the tables. The Liberal Party were about 25 to 30 points down in the polls a couple of months ago. And Trump came into office and Carney became leader. It became clear that Carney was the next guy to take him on. He started confronting Trump during the election campaign, that is. And suddenly his popularity rating shot up. And they completed an incredible comeback to win the general election comfortably in Canada. The former central banker became Prime Minister. And he's done a reasonable job so far. He's attempted to stand up to Trump, and it hasn't really worked. And I think that is down to America's economic might. I mean, it's the most powerful country in the world. It's also the most powerful economy on earth.
Did he need to apologise to him?
Yeah, that was over the Ontario Premier posting an unflattering video of Ronald Reagan denouncing tariffs. The Canadian government are forced into a turnaround there. But apart from that, I think he's a sensible, pragmatic politician. I think, he has the trust of Canadians, and it was a big moment, certainly. Equally, the Australian election and Australia, Anthony Albanese, the Australian PM, has obviously been in the news over the past week because of the horrific Bondi shooting. But he secured another term. He secured another mandate, which was a boost for him. And then I suppose the issue that I think a lot of people in this country would be thinking of is Gaza and the turmoil in Gaza and the Middle East more generally. We had ultimately the ceasefire, which I would give a bit of credit to Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff. As unconventional as their strategies are, they did manage to stop the fighting somewhat. I know there's still, fatalities occurring in Gaza, and I know, that it's being partitioned essentially. But there is a hint of a pathway there towards a Palestinian state in that peace plan. And I think they deserve a degree of credit on that one.
Rather fragile, though.
Quite fragile, and that has to be said as well. In the middle of all that, a war between Israel and Iran, which Trump dubbed the 12-day war. I mean, that was highly significant. That could have propelled the region, or propelled the Middle East into a region-wide conflict. And obviously, America bombed Iran's nuclear sites. That was a big intervention by Donald Trump, and there were many people within his movement, the MAGA movement, who were not happy with the way he intervened there. But it seemed to pay off, although I have my suspicions in terms of how damaged those Iranian nuclear facilities actually were. There are reports saying that they're still operational, or they are rebuilding
because
them.
They were buried so deep in the mountains and stuff. Wow. Okay. What else, Thomas?
Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska and the war in Ukraine, obviously. I mean, he rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin in Alaska, and any meeting between a US president and a Russian president is always going to be significant, but particularly this time around when Trump has positioned himself ostensibly quite close to Putin and taken a softer line than maybe presidents past. His speech to the UN General Assembly, Trump that is, in which he decries global warming. I mean, Trump delivers blockbuster entertainment speeches. I'll give that to him. You may completely disagree with what he's saying, but I mean, his ability to just to go on and on and on and invent his own terminology.
When almost everybody in that room disagreed with him, and he still held court there.
Yeah, and he holds, because people are fearful of him. So that was a significant moment. Sanai Takaichi became Japan's new Prime Minister. And two other big moments, which I'll pick out. Javier Milei, the Argentinian president, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, consolidated his power, his mandate in Argentina. He won a series of elections, which kind of gave a boost to his economic project, his libertarian economic project, which seems to be working. And maybe a lot of people on the left of the political spectrum will not be happy to hear that, but he has introduced these bold economic reforms which have brought inflation way down and kind of stabilised an economy that has been unstable for decades upon decades. So I think he's doing a reasonably good job there. Now, it's not as well without its drawbacks, and there is still huge problems in Argentina, but from the economic data alone, it's certainly a better picture than it was a year ago. And another place where the scenario is better but not perfect is Syria. And there was that visit from the new Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara, to the White House, during which Trump sprayed aftershave on him. Shara has this massive beard that would be quite typical of men in the Middle East. Well, Trump sprayed aftershave on him and asked him how many wives he had. Now, he replied that he'd only one. But that was a big moment for Syria at the same time,
Yeah, but remarkable with that man's history that he would be lauded in the White House.
A former jihad, a former member of Al-Qaeda, quite a sensational turnaround. People say he had been building to this for a number of years, that he had been building towards this ultimate aim, and he has certainly risen up the ranks to an incredible degree. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, you mentioned the new Japanese Prime Minister as well, but all not well between Japan and China then.
No, relations very much souring between Xi Jinping and the new Japan PM, Sanai Takaichi. And that is mainly because of, I suppose, the struggle over Taiwan to a certain degree. Japan would be quite steadfast in its support of Taiwan. China, of course, not quite planning for an imminent invasion, but certainly have their sights on Taiwan in the near future and see kind of an opening there. Nobody is sure whether Donald Trump would jump to Taiwan's aid, even though the Americans have called for a maintenance of the status quo in the Pacific. But certainly Japan's economy has been, it was stagnant for decades. It's improved slightly. COVID hit it hard. And it is the minor partner in that relationship. It does do a lot of trade with China. Crucially, though, it's a democracy. Even though one party tends to dictate, it is a democracy. The far right are on the rise there. But this woman, Sanai Takaichi, is a conservative, and she's kind of like-minded, and Donald Trump likes her quite a bit.
Interesting to watch that as well. The assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, I thought that was probably one of the grimmest moments of the year. Obviously, any type of political violence, but particularly an assassination. That was, you wondered, had the United States reached a nadir, reached a low point when that happened, because it just was illustrative of the way in which divisions have become so entrenched in the United States that it would lead to the killing of. He was a champion of the conservative movement, and you may not agree with everything Charlie Kirk said, but he was a skilled debater.
Especially to young people on the campuses.
Especially to young people. He was, like, you could describe him as the leader of the youth wing of the Trump movement, really.
How important was he to Trump?
I think he was quite important in cultivating that young people's vote and in promoting Trump's ideology, that conservative ideology throughout the United States. I think, like, he was very savvy in terms of social media. He communicated, a superb communicator. And as I say, you mightn't agree with everything he said, but he actually engaged with people and debated with them. He didn't dismiss them. He
gave them a platform to argue with him, but he was magnificent in terms of being a debater, though, and all of that. It's interesting, though, it's because it sparked so much conspiracy since he's dead.
Yeah, indeed, and that is, it's amazing the conspiracy theories that do the rounds. Like, the manner of his death was so gruesome and all that people are asking, well, was this choreographed? I don't think it was myself, but certainly, you just don't know with these things. I mean, I'm not a great believer in conspiracy theories, unlike J.D. Vance, perhaps his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, described him as a conspiracy theorist last week. But maybe some have a grain of truth in them. That's usually how they start, isn't it? They have a grain of truth.
Well, this is the thing about it. Yeah. Do you want to look forward then for me? I mean, what are the biggies for 2026, do you think? What should we be keeping a very close eye on?
I mean, for the really interesting thing, and I was listening to it on radio this morning, an analysis of it, Ireland's presidency of the European Union in the second half of 2026. That will be crucial. And it will be crucial for a number of reasons. We'll host a number of high-profile political events, a meeting of the European political community, which is kind of a pan-European group, kind of headed by Macron and the main leaders. That, I think, is coming to Dublin, as far as I know. That will be a massive security operation, and I think we're going to have to up our game big time when it comes to security. And that we saw the drone incursions with Zelensky. Now that's not a slight on the Gardaí because we have run major security operations in the past. We'll say for Obama, for the Queen, and they have been superbly run. And I'd be confident the Gardaí and the security forces can pull it off again. But from a domestic perspective, I think that's going to be big. I think it would be interesting to see how Donald Trump's appeal, whether he starts to wane or not. There's a question there, have we reached peak Trump? I think we're in it. I think we're in peak Trump at the moment. And by the time the midterms come around next November...
Yeah, but I was reading at the weekend, they're going to drive him out onto the road to canvass, basically, for the midterms. I mean, he's going to be their star attraction, isn't he? Yeah,
he will be. And we'll see the re-emergence of those rallies that he is so synonymous with. And that could actually shore up his support. That could boost his appeal yet again, because he's very skilled at those rallies, and it might energise the party. But a lot will hinge on how the Republicans get on in the midterms. And suddenly then, after the midterms, traditionally a second-term president is yesterday's man. I'm not sure that'll be the case when it comes to Donald Trump. I think he dominates the news agenda so much. But then there'll be a battle to succeed him. I think in pole position for that is Marco Rubio.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think he has impressed me. Much more so than J.D. Vance. I mean, J.D. Vance was quite high profile at the beginning of this year and kind of faded as the year went on. I don't know, did people say something to him? Was he told to kind of taper it down a little bit? But certainly Rubio, by virtue of, I suppose, the Ukraine talks, has been more prominent. So I think he's the leading man to succeed Donald Trump, if there is a leading man, if he doesn't run again and defy the Constitution.
It's going to be interesting. What the sure thing is, we will never be short.
No, that is absolutely true.
For our slot here on a Monday, that's for sure. So the big one for you anyway was the Oval Office spat.
Yeah, that was my moment of the year. Yeah. Do you have one?
Do you know, when you said that, I'd probably go along with that, but I'd have to say, even though it's gruesome, the killing of Charlie Kirk was just...
Yeah, and particularly the manner in which it was... and the fact that the footage was circulated and it was captured live, unfortunately.
And my fear at the time was that the reaction to it would have been bloody.
Yeah. And that is always the day that there would be reprisals or that there would be a response to it. It didn't really unravel like that, but, you know, it is... Any time an assassination happens, you just have to... Like, we had the 1960s and JFK and RFK and Martin Luther King, and it brings you back to that era. So, yeah. Well,
that's for sure. Thomas, pleasure as always. Happy Christmas to you
Many
and your
happy returns, Fran, and to your listeners too.
Thanks very much indeed. Thomas Conway there of the Nina Guardian. News and information's on the way.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007. Free phone number there if you want to speak to Leanne. Now, the excitement is building in Cork Airport this week as Irish people living all across the globe make that journey home for Christmas. And I'm glad to be joined now by Barry Holland, who's Communications Manager at Cork Airport. Good morning to you, Barry.
Good morning, Fran.
And happy Christmas to you and to all the team there. It's been a great year for the airport, hasn't it?
And many happy returns to you and all the team there, Fran. It certainly has. 2025 is shaping up to be our busiest year in our 64-year history, where we're going to welcome over 3.4 million passengers across the year 2025. That's a 13% increase in passengers compared to 2024. So it's been a really bumper year. It's been bumper from the point of view of passenger numbers, but also by the addition of several new routes in 2025, with more to come in 2026 as well.
And also, of course, once again, crowned best regional airport in Europe.
That's quite correct. We won the accolade of best regional airport in Europe during the summer from ACI Europe. It's our airport industry representative body. It's the third time in a decade Cork Airport has won the title of best regional airport in Europe. That's airports under 5 million passengers, of which there's about 440 of them across the continent of Europe. So it's a really significant accolade for us. It's a great accolade for the team in general across the airport that are working every day to make sure that passengers have a really positive, hassle-free and convenient, easy airport experience in Cork. And of course, naturally enough, in terms of driving time and distance time from Tipperary, whether it's North Tip or South Tip, it's really convenient, a quick journey down the M8. And of course, we all know how easy it is in terms of parking and getting through the airport. So these are small things that we like to pay attention to, Fran, as well, and we make sure that things are as easy as possible for our passengers. And thankfully, there's been a noticeable increase in passengers travelling from our wider hinterland, including from Tipperary, a noticeable percentage increase across the last couple of years. And we're heartened to see that. We do hope it continues into the years ahead.
Will you increase parking over the next few years, Barry?
We certainly will, Fran. We have planning permission has been granted for the extension of our long-term Holiday Blue car park by about 700 extra spaces, which will give us ample spaces now for car parking. We have had a couple of busy years, as you can imagine, at which car parking at some points during the summer was rather busy, and we always encourage our passengers to book their car parking as far enough in advance as they wish. Our booking engine allows car parking to be booked up to nine months in advance. So we're always encouraging people to book their car parking in advance. However, we will have more spaces next year, which will make it easier for passengers when they are booking. We will have new technology as well in entering the car parking, such as automatic number plate recognition and an easier, smoother process for anyone that is coming to Cork next summer.
Yeah, I think you've introduced that in some of your parking areas, have you not? Because I was down there just a couple of months ago, and you do recognise the number plates now, I think, in some of your parking, do you?
Some of the car parking at the moment, we're just undergoing what you might call a test phase at the moment. So that's what you might have noticed. But from probably January or February next year, certainly the early part of the year, we will introduce the new technology, which will make it easier for people when they are making their booking and just hassle-free. Again, Fran, it's the name of the game here for us, just to make things as easy as possible and as convenient as possible for our passengers.
I'm a little bit jealous, Barry. I'm looking down at some of your flights out today. Tenerife, Lanzarote. Wouldn't I just love that now?
Wouldn't that be glorious, Fran? And of course, they are very popular this time of year, would you believe? Quite a lot of people are now taking the opportunity to spend Christmas or even the intervening period between Christmas and the New Year abroad. And I've had a look at the flight loads there for some of the Canaries in the south of Spain in between Stephen's Day and the 28th, and they are very busy. And again, it's just a kind of I suppose it's a testament to the fact that it's more convenient for passengers to get out to these places where there's lovely warm weather. But again, people are taking the opportunity as well to take smaller breaks throughout the year. That has become a noticeable trend, Fran, as well, in terms of our market research, that we see people are slightly swaying away from the big 2-week holiday and opting for more smaller breaks throughout the year, which they can enjoy. And of course, with year-round services to some of these popular destinations like the Canaries, like the south of Spain, they are obviously very busy at this time of year as well.
Very good. Well, of course, only 3 sleeps to Christmas. I guess you're preparing for Santa Claus as well.
Oh, we certainly are. And actually, we've received a copy of Santa Claus' flight plan. And our last arrival on Christmas Eve will be an Aer Lingus flight from London Heathrow at 9 p.m. So anyone that is listening can be rest assured out there that the airspace over Munster will be clear from 9 o'clock onwards on Christmas Eve. We've received a copy of Santa's flight plan. He is expected to arrive on schedule, but perhaps even with more favourable weather conditions and maybe a wind blowing in his favour, he could arrive even earlier. So I would be watching that as well in case he does arrive a little bit earlier than expected. But naturally enough, he's very good with his filing his flight plan every year. We've seen a copy with it. He's meticulous with his details, and of course, as I say, the airspace will be clear, and we'll be certainly keeping an eye and monitoring him as he circulates Munster, delivering all those presents to very good boys and girls across the province.
That's so exciting, isn't it? I guess it must have been very emotional on the floor over the last few days, Barry.
It certainly has, Fran. And, you know, I think you'll scarcely find a part of the world that is more heartwarming and there's more joy than an airport at Christmas time. Yeah. Seeing families reunite, and a lot of them maybe perhaps for extended periods away from each other. A lot of people travelling long haul from the likes of Australia, perhaps from the Middle East, maybe other parts of Asia or North America, all connecting some of the hubs through the hubs like Amsterdam or London Heathrow or Paris, and flying into Cork then with family members here to meet and greet them as well. It is emotional, and you know, people go to a lot of effort as well, which is great to see. They'll come in with banners and balloons, and they'll bring, perhaps they might bring in the family dog to greet them as well. People just go to that extra special effort at Christmas time, which is really wonderful to see. It is a smashing atmosphere and really, really festive. We've had choirs for the entire duration of December. In total, between the 1st of December and the 23rd, 37 performing artists and groups across the early part of the month. So again, all geared just to put in that festive welcome for passengers when they touch down, you know, and give them that real taste of home. We have Clonakilty Black Pudding tastings here now as well today, as a matter of interest. So not only do people get to experience the sights and sounds, they get the smells and the taste of home as well with Clonakilty Black Pudding as well. So it is all just to provide that very festive ambience and a big welcome home, a Céad Míle Fáilte for all the people travelling from afar. And you alluded to expanding the car parking spaces. In terms of what else are you looking forward to for 2026, Barry? We have some brilliant new routes coming down the line in 2026, Fran. 2 new routes. Aer Lingus announced them just a few weeks ago. We have a new route to Nice, which is starting in May, and then a new route to Santiago to Compostela in Spain, starting in June. Antalya is another new route we're looking forward to in 2026. Sun Express will fly to their second destination now in 2 years on the Turkish Riviera. So we have some fantastic new additions to the schedule. That's on top of the likes of the ones to Bilbao, Bordeaux, Izmir, Prague and Geneva. all which are added this year. So lots more destinations next year, Fran. Lots more choice for passengers in Tipperary when they are booking their summer holiday. And of course, that convenient airport experience will always be the same when they come down here to enjoy as they're flying out in their summer holidays.
Well, it's always been my experience down there has been fantastic, I must say. If people want to find out more about what's happening at the airport, what's the best way to do that, Barry?
Well, certainly for destinations as such as well, Fran, our website is very comprehensive. It has all the destinations and the flight schedules. It's at corkairport.com. You'll find our destinations page there very easily. But then as well, what we might advise passengers to do as well is check our socials as well and keep an eye on our social media. We actually have some great giveaways at the moment as well as part of our 12 Days of Christmas competition. But we also have various updates, new route updates, capital development updates on the various works that are going on and expanding the facilities here at the airport as well. So for anyone that's keen to learn more and find out more about the airport, tune into our social media and on our website as well, corkairport.com.
All right. Well, once again, happy Christmas to you and all the gang there. Thanks, Barry. Thank you. Good morning.
Happy returns, Fran.
Bye-bye to you now. That's Barry Holland, who is Communications Manager at Cork Airport. Busy place at the moment, I can tell you. 083 311 3311. Now, the leading Tipperary waste management company, Ryan Brothers Environmental Services, has launched a public awareness campaign following a rise in fires caused by batteries, vapes and electronics being thrown into household wheelie bins, skips and public street bins. Now, Brian Lyons is Managing Director of Clean Ireland Recycling and joins me now. Good morning to you, Brian.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. And Clean Ireland Recycling, that's a partner company, I think, of Ryan Brothers, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Similar group. Yeah, exactly.
Very good indeed. What's happening is very worrying because from a safety point of view, it sounds dodgy, doesn't it?
Yes. So, Fran, we've seen a rise, certainly in the last year or two, of fires in waste trucks, in particular caused by batteries or electronics that may contain batteries. And, you know, it's not just a problem that's unique to Ireland. We hear many of our European counterparts are facing the same issues. And, you know, we can only put it down to what we're kind of calling the cordless revolution. Like, as you know, nearly everything now has a battery and is chargeable, whereas once it might have had a plug and a cord. And batteries, you know, the battery technology is evolving as well. You know, they're getting smaller, they're getting more powerful. And I suppose the thrust of our campaign is the do's and the don'ts and the whys. And if we start with the don'ts, you touched on it there. We're encouraging everybody, this is aimed at householders and businesses, is to never put batteries or any electronic or electrical equipment in your wheelie bin or in a skip or a skip bag. Please bring them back to the nearest approved return point. And there's two very useful websites, if you don't mind, if I could mention them, please.
Sure, Ryan, yeah.
It's weeireland.ie, that's WEEE Ireland.ie. They have a very good interactive map where you can very easily find your nearest approved return point. And the government information website is called mywaste.ie. So that's what we're encouraging people to do, that no matter what, don't put them into your wheelie bin or your skip or the public street bins, because a lot of the public street bin waste will eventually maybe end up in one of our trucks or one of our facilities.
Of course. And you're saying to me that people don't realise how dangerous this can be and how easily fires can start. And I can imagine if this happened in one of your trucks, for example, I mean, it could be catastrophic.
Oh, it is, and we've had a number of instances. So, you know, okay, so if I just explain, you know, why it's such a problem. So, batteries and electronics, I mean, they're typically very, very safe, but they become unsafe when they enter the waste streams that we manage. And if you take a battery, if it goes into one of our trucks, which uses a compaction system, or into our facilities where we have grabs and loaders and things, the battery will most likely get damaged, pierced or crushed, and that causes the short circuit. And obviously when a battery short circuits, in particular the lithium-ion batteries, there's a sudden release of heat, flame and energy. and that's what causes it. And the other why, I suppose, as well is, there's a lot of rare earth minerals in these batteries and electronics, and if they're brought back to the proper approved return points, all those rare minerals get captured, recycled and reused again for new electronics. And also as well, I don't think people are deliberately doing the wrong thing. It's just maybe increasing awareness and education as to what the right thing to do is, and that's what our campaign is about. And it is always free to recycle batteries, electric and electronic equipment. There is no charge. Typically, the County Council's civic amenity sites and bring centres are very good to accept all of this type of material. Electrical retailers as well. And obviously your household batteries that we're all familiar with, your AA or AAA, most of the shops, grocery shops, are even taking them back. A lot of them have a blue box up near the counter.
Yeah. So lots of
that's what
opportunities
we're trying to
there.
encourage people to do.
I'm kind of taken aback though that some people are like they're putting e-bikes and e-scooters into some of the waste streams as well.
We had a fire in a truck there in East County Limerick earlier this year, and the culprit was a battery from an e-bike. Now, you can imagine how powerful these batteries are. Yeah.
Wow.
And typically, I suppose, just to explain what happens, and we had one only about 3 weeks ago as well, actually, on the border between Limerick and Cllr. The crew typically notice a bit of smoke coming from the body of the truck. Immediately they call fire services, call their transport manager, and a decision is made then to go to the nearest, waste facility. In this particular case, it was a county council facility, and the fire services, who are excellent, I must commend them on their reaction times, in fairness, they will come, and then there will be a controlled opening of the back door, and as the load is ejected, they'll put out the fire. So, So I mean, anytime you're talking about fire, Fran, there is a risk to life and to property. And we just want to get all of these things.
And I guess as well, Brian, from an environmental point of view, I mean, that has to be taken into account as well, hasn't it?
Of course it does, yeah, certainly. Whereas there's no negative environmental impact if they're brought back to the proper locations. They will eventually go to battery recycling plants or electronic recycling plants, and as I said, the rare minerals in them will be reused again. Another thing as well, if I could, Fran,
sure.
Sometimes it's not very obvious if there's a battery in an item. Now, I don't know if you saw the piece that RTE ran there a week or two ago where there was a blue trailer on fire. The culprit that caused that fire was actually a TV box. So, your TV box, you plug it into the wall, plug it into your TV, and away you go. Yeah. You wouldn't typically think there's a battery in that, but there obviously was a memory battery in it, I suppose, to keep the time when it's plugged out, and that actually caused that fire. So I suppose the message is, if it's a battery, if it's electrical, if it's electronic in any way, shape or form, never into the bin or the skip.
Well, it's a very cautionary tale indeed there. And that website again is weeeireland.ie, is that it?
Yeah, weeireland.ie, weeeireland.ie. Very good interactive map where they can, where all the different items you might have, it'll show you the nearest return points. And the government information website on that is mywaste.ie. So we'd encourage people to try and look them up, or they can contact ourselves and we'll put them on the right path. All
right. Happy Christmas to you and to everybody at the organisation there. Thanks for talking to us, Brian. Thank you.
Thanks, Fran.
Thank you. Good morning. Brian Lyons there, Managing Director of Clean Ireland Recycling, a partner company there of Ryan Brothers in Tipperary. 1800 938 007.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Welcome back to Tip Today. Let us do this.
The Conspiracy Files on Tip Today.
Ali has more conspiracy for us. How are you, Ali?
Good, Fran. Yeah, I was looking for a nice Christmassy one. Couldn't find any.
Could you not?
So the best I could do was a biblical one, which is why I've picked the Book of Enoch.
Well, I'm glad you picked this because I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's kind of experienced something of a revival in the last few years with a lot of online sleuths kind of really delving into it. Now, while most Christians probably are not aware really of the Book of Enoch and its existence, some will know that it appears to be quoted in the biblical book of Jude and is also referenced in Peter as well. Now, remember, fragments of the Book of Enoch were also found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, with 10 manuscripts discovered in Aramaic among those findings of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So some may dismiss the Book of Enoch as some kind of conspiracy or something that didn't happen. It was real, so there's absolutely no question about that. Now, these fragments that were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, they're very significant, because what they do is they provide the oldest known copies of the text and also demonstrate its importance during the Second Temple period. Because remember, everything that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls was considered to be extremely important of that time. So the fact that the Book of Enoch is contained within the Dead Sea Scrolls really speaks to how it was considered.
So who was Enoch?
Well, Enoch was the great-grandfather of Noah. So according to the text, Enoch was taken up by God, leaving behind a legacy of very strange visions and prophecies. So the Book of Enoch itself, it's split into several sections, and it really focuses on the stories of angels, of fallen angels, and of cosmic judgments. Now, it's like the Book of Revelations, but like in sci-fi form.
Right, it's a real fun reading.
A fun read. It's very apocalyptic, it's full of mystery, and it promises to reveal the hidden workings of the universe. Now, the Book of Enoch was excluded from the biblical canon. Now, to be fair, it's not recognised officially as a sacred text within mainstream Judaism or within Catholicism or within the Christian faith. It's only included in the canon of very few Christian traditions, such as the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which has the largest biblical canon among Christian denominations. But still, the Book of Enoch remains the most talked about book that didn't make it into the Bible. Now, there is some theories that it was in some of the original versions of the Bible. Some argue against that. We don't really know for sure. So just to break it down on what's contained in it and how it's structured, the Ethiopian version of it, which is really the only full text that we know of, it consists of 5 books. So some of those 5 books contain the Book of Watchers, which takes in chapters 1 to 36. Now, this section is primarily concerned with God's judgment on the angels, who are also called the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, who are thought to have taken human form and mated, I say in inverted commas, unconsentingly, with human women prior to the big flood that we know of from the Noah story. So readers familiar with the Bible will recognise this as an expansion of the enigmatic statement in Genesis 6:2, which is, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves whomever they chose. So the Book of the Watchers is the one that receives a lot of attention, but there are some that don't interpret it literally. There are some different ideas as to what the writings really mean.
All right, the Book of Enoch wastes no time getting pretty spicy. Angels, known as the Watchers, began lusting after human women. See, those women start having children with the Watchers, and these aren't normal children. These are giants. I'm talking literal, hulking, colossal beings called the Nephilim. The Watchers are giving humanity the blueprint to understand the world and our place in it. How does the big guy, God, take the news? Not well. So in Enoch, the flood is God's deadly solution to the Watcher problem. So the flood becomes this cosmic reset to enforce ignorance and slavery. The Book of Enoch is an allegory for humanity's awakening and the forces that want to suppress that awakening. The Watchers, the fallen angels.
All right, so then the other book, Parables, is it?
Parables, yeah. Parables takes in chapters 37 to 71, and this section is composed of 3 distinct apocalyptic revelations combined with a description of Enoch's translation into heaven. So this portion of the book of Enoch is of particular interest to New Testament scholars because it uses the title Son of Man in relation to Enoch. Now, you also have the Book of Dream Visions, or it's also called the Book of Dreams, and that takes in chapters 83 to 90. Now, this section seems to parallel much of the content of the first 2, and it's focused primarily on the role of the fallen angels in various eras in Israelite history. You also have the Epistle of Enoch. Now, this section seems to be an attempt to kind of deal with the problem of evil. So what this section does is it addresses the suffering of the righteous and the prosperity of the wicked, and declares that a coming judgment will coincide with the future arrival of the Messiah. So very much going along other religious texts, with the parables, the teachings and the warnings of what's to come if we don't heed those warnings. Now, if you look at the mysterious origins then of the Book of Enoch, it was widely circulated among Jewish communities in the centuries before Jesus. But the theory is that it was a bit too weird, even for the taste of the early Christian church. So the most famous part of the Book of Enoch, which is the Watchers, the first part of it, makes it immediately clear why the book's content was a bit too much for church leaders. That is because, according to Scripture, Watchers are a group of angels who came down to earth and decided to teach humans all sorts of things like how to make weapons, how to read the stars and how to play God. Plus there's that whole thing about the Nephilim. The Nephilim, as you'll remember, giants being born from the union of the Watchers and human women. Now, if you're trying to run a religion that needs to keep things very neat and orderly, the idea of giant hybrid beings roaming the earth might be a little bit too much to handle.
Just a little, I would imagine.
It also, if you look, it is kind of comparable as well with ancient Greek mythology as well, this idea of, these physically huge gods that control people. And then you will have, like the fallen or like the Watchers, people who try and come down and have compassion for the small humans and try to teach them just as Prometheus did. So this is a story that really echoes through time, I think, and that's why a lot of people don't take it literally. So you also have the connection to the Nephilim, because the major reason that the Book of Enoch is so controversial is its elaboration on the story of the Nephilim. Now, the mysterious giants appear briefly in Genesis 6, where they are described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, meaning their fathers were divine beings and their mothers were human. However, the Book of Enoch is different in that it goes into great detail about who the Nephilim were and what they did. Basically, they were giants just wreaking havoc on earth. Now, early Christian thinkers didn't like this idea of a bunch of angel-human hybrid giants roaming the earth. It didn't sit well with the message that they were trying to sell, this image of God creating a perfect world and humans screwing it up, basically. So the idea of angels actively interfering with humanity was a little too chaotic for them, so they decided to leave it out of the official canon. The Book of Enoch, though, does continue to be popular in some circles, partly because it does give more insight into the mysterious Nephilim and their role in the ancient world. Because there are also theories as well that the Nephilim have some kind of alien background or alien DNA to them, that it's not just religious, that they could be otherworldly or alien. So for people interested in biblical mysteries or conspiracy theories, the Nephilim are a huge draw. But are they real? And were they wiped out in the flood, as described in the Book of Enoch? Did they leave traces of their existence that we're still finding today? These questions make the Book of Enoch...
Are there traces?
Well, we have skeleton giants, which we've gone through before.
Yeah.
We do have that. You also have ancient texts that refer to them. You have cave paintings that refer to them. You have hieroglyphics in Egypt that refer to large beings and giant creatures. But the question is, can you take that all literally, or is it is it just a representation of something else?
Of course, yeah. What was it suppressed, though, or is that conspiracy?
Well, technically it was, but the reasons why maybe differ from person to person. You know, maybe the church didn't want people to know what it revealed. There are those who argue that the book contains hidden knowledge that could shake the very foundations of Christianity if it were to be taken seriously. Because if you delve into it again, you'll go into this theory, and it can be interpreted that the Nephilim did have some kind of alien background and were able to, our evolution came as a result of the Nephilim interfering with our DNA and interfering with humans biologically. The Watchers, after all, were teaching humans things like astrology, like magic, the occult, stuff, of course, that the church would not have wanted its own followers getting into. Now, this is where the conspiracy theories do start to take hold, because some people believe the reason the church left out the Book of Enoch was far from accidental, because they claim that church leaders purposely excluded it because it threatened their power. Now, the story of the Watchers and the Nephilim, with its hints of rebellion and forbidden knowledge, that could challenge the way people view authority. And it could also skew the way that people view the role of angels in God's plan, because angels, as we know in Christianity, would always be seen as a very gentle protective force and always on our side. Now, the reason this kind of came into the fore again recently was because of comments made by a US government representative, a lady by the name of Anna Paulina Luna. She was speaking not about it specifically, but she was talking about government misinformation. And she spoke about religious texts, focusing on the Book of Enoch's exclusion from the standard biblical canon. Now, she suggests that certain texts were removed from the Bible in the 4th century, and that this was done to control religious narratives. She notes that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still considers the Book of Enoch part of their Bible, which they regard as the purest form of the Bible. Here's what she said.
God is protecting us in the Book of Enoch. It is a very different God than the spiteful, wrathful God that we...
Sorry, I think that's the wrong one. We need to go with this one, do we, Luna?
Luna, yes.
You have the Ethiopian Orthodox text, which has, I think, 88 books of the Bible in total. But in the Ethiopian Orthodox text, it's basically kind of like a mainline OG version of the Bible. And then sometime in the 4th century, there was actually a group that came together and they removed certain books. And the story goes that Revelations actually had replaced Enoch. And so it's interesting because when you're looking kind of full circle on, you hear the stuff that some of these people are talking about, and then you see and you read the Book of Enoch, which is a wild read, okay? And then you look at kind of what our modern day description is of what angels and entities are versus what Enoch was seeing and reporting in his language and ability at that time. I think that there's a lot that brings you to then ask the question, well, why would they remove this information? If it's truly, written in part of the oldest Bible in the world, why would they then take it out?
It's very interesting. Yeah, I was just saying to you off air, is that the Council of Nicaea? Are they the people who made the decision as to the content of the Bible?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not too sure when exactly that was, though.
Yeah, I think it was around that time, but maybe Leanne might have.
It's all coming together.
It's all coming together now, for sure, yeah. So the reality then, Ali, is what?
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, that early Christians didn't need another book that was filled with very strange teachings and apocalyptic predictions, and one like the Book of Enoch, which was really out there compared to the other books and texts of that time. So when focused on spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, the early church may have found little need for additional stories about giants and fallen angels. But if you look at its influence on Christianity, despite the fact that the Book of Enoch was excluded from the Bible, it does have a significant impact on early Christian thought, because many early Christian writers and thinkers, they were very familiar with the book and they do reference it in their works, as does the Bible itself. Yeah. So the book was seen as an important source of information on angels, demons and the end times. So even though it's not officially contained in our modern day Bible, or what we know as the Bible, its ideas still made their way into Christian thought. Even today, the Book of Enoch continues to influence modern religious groups and individuals. Now, of course, you will have those on the fringes who will take it literally and really cling on to those kind of out there aspects of it, like the Nephilim and the giants. And they, of course, will be fascinated by the book's portrayal of angels and their interactions then with humanity. So it's become kind of a go-to source for anyone who believes that the Bible is hiding some secret knowledge that will one day be revealed. Because there has always been that theory that the Bible isn't what we believe it to be, that it does contain secret messages. Remember, the Bible Code was huge in the 90s. Remember that?
The Bible Code, no.
The Bible Code, there was an Israeli professor, I cannot remember his name, but he wrote 2 books called the Bible Code, because what he discovered, or what he claimed, was that if you put all of the text of the Bible into a certain computer system and you asked it a question, it would throw up words that would interact and counter or intersect with each other. So, for instance, he was able to show that the Bible predicted the attempted assassination of the Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in the early 90s. He also claimed he was able to show that the Bible predicted the murder, it says, of Princess Diana, of various world wars, and of various major incidents in world history. And he said that this was all contained within the Bible. Now, this was a huge story in the 90s, but kind of died off after a while, and nobody has heard about the Bible Code since.
So this is using the Bible almost as a computer of sorts.
Absolutely. Almost like you're doing a word search.
Wow.
Essentially like that. And anything you ask it, those interacting or intersecting words are all in the same area. Because it's very easy to say, I mean, logic will tell you with that amount of text, you'll find any word you want to.
Yeah.
But what he's claiming is that if you ask it a specific question, those words will only intersect in one area altogether. So that's how he was able to prove. Well, he claimed he was able to prove. So it's strange. But many people do believe that the exclusion of Enoch is because we're actually easier to be controlled without the Book of Enoch. This is why.
God is protecting us in the book of Enoch. It is a very different God than the spiteful, wrathful God that we see in the Genesis account. The church derives great benefit from having us be very, very afraid of God and of God wiping us all out if we're not obedient.
Did early Jewish and Christian leaders really omit the story of Enoch from the Bible because they had an agenda? Could it be that they wanted to keep their followers in line by promoting the notion of an angry and vengeful God?
That's fascinating, isn't it? So do you have a conclusion for us,
Well,
Ali?
kind of. Like, the bottom line is that the Book of Enoch really it's weird and it's strange, and it just didn't fit in with the whole Bible's narrative. It's packed with angels, with giant hybrid monsters, all kinds of rebellious teachings that the early church didn't really want to deal with. But it does have its fans, and that fan base behind the Book of Enoch is really gaining momentum, particularly online as people delve into it. Some swear by it as the key to the hidden knowledge that the church is supposedly hiding. But again, it's all about interpretation.
Yeah, but there are parallels with Revelations, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, Revelations would be a light version of Enoch. It would, though. But very light. It would be like the kids' version.
Right, by
of
comparison.
Enoch. Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, you've
as
obviously,
terrifying as Revelations is.
Yes, absolutely. But have you read through some of the passages of Enoch?
Kind of. But then, like, there's also the argument that it's lost in translation a little bit as well, because it was written, of course, in Aramaic as well. So maybe there's a misinterpretation of that. Now, I haven't gone through it all. What I have seen, like, it is fascinating. It reads like a sci-fi novel, and that's what I got from reading it. Like, how do we know that this is actually religious text? Maybe it is just that time's version of some weird sci-fi novel.
But just somebody's imagination.
Absolutely. Yes. Why are we taking it as fact?
It's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. All right, Ali, thanks for all the conspiracies during the year. I presume you have a whole load more for us for 2026.
We do, because an interesting one, and actually we were talking about it this morning, a sad case, and not to make light of it, but a strange case as well in Galway last week, where at an inquest, it was ruled that a man died by spontaneous human combustion.
Now, that's something that's been disputed as a possibility even over the years.
And it's a very strange subject to delve into, so we might look into that as well in the new year. But as well, we always welcome anyone, if there's anything, any listeners maybe who would like us to delve into certain subjects, we'd be more than happy to get in touch.
All right, Ali, thanks very much
Fran.
indeed for that. Thank you. We'll take a break. Back with more Tip Today in a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, listener was on to say the Book of Enoch is about the end of the age of Pisces and the beginning of the new age of Aquarius. It's metaphorical, and not to be read literally. Aquarius is the son of man. All ages end in crazy times. Giants were reference to man. So that should read, giants were references to man playing God, and we see that very much today, says one of our listeners. By the way, in case I forget to say to you, thank you to everybody who's wishing us all here a happy Christmas, and we really, really appreciate it indeed. Now, the decision by the government to withdraw funding from 2026 for so-called medication blister packs issued by pharmacies has been delayed, following a political backlash, and indeed a backlash from the general public as well. The Dáil recently heard that people, particularly the elderly and those with conditions like dementia, were worried that they would have to pay between €20 and €50 a month for these blister packs, which had, up until now, been free of charge. Well, Noel joins me on this. Good morning to you, Noel.
Good morning, Fran, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome indeed. And from what I'm hearing from Ali and Leanne, you are very cross over this.
Oh, I'm annoyed. Anyone that's on disability, anyone that's on job seekers, anybody that's on any sort of a pension. Like, the point I'm making is the €10 that we're getting on a rise in come just January, it's not worth a curse to anybody, Fran.
And just for people who mightn't be too certain about this, blister packs, it's a way of separating the medication and sort of structuring it in some way so that it's easy for people to take. Yeah.
Correct. Basically, it's very easy for a person to come in at night time, pop the package, take your tablets, all the tablets that's there for you, and it's very easy.
Right. And the danger of not having this, Noel, would be what? That you could take too much medication, is that it, or not enough?
From what I pick up from people saying that it's an easy way of taking your tablets, and it's not confusing for people that has it.
Okay, right. So this is very necessary for a large cohort of people out there. So you're particularly cross over this decision hitting the group of people that it will largely hit, which is
the
older people.
pensioners that are only on a standard package. So I'll give an example. I was talking to an elderly lady that was on $280, $290 a week, and she says if they take 15 for her blister pack and then her drugs on top of that again, they said it's going to be absolutely devastating for them.
You see, with all, it's no wonder you're annoyed about it all, because with all of the waste that we hear about out there, and then, all of a sudden it's the most vulnerable that are hit with this.
But the funny thing, friend, and I know we have TDs listening here today. We have not one TD that will stand up and say it, that enough is enough.
Yeah, well, in fairness,
no. They're one hand and they're taking it on the other hand.
Yeah, I know. In fairness, like a lot of the TDs, particularly opposition TDs, have spoken out.
Oh yes, but like the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, independents can't justify it. Can't justify it, and that's what annoys us in a big way. Now, when I say us, I'm speaking for elderly people. Elderly people that cannot justify it. I was talking to another pharmacy, and they said they were charging 25, 30 euros for the blister packs.
Wow.
And I just walked out. I just said, it just can't happen.
But of course, in fairness, the pharmacies are running a business. They were paid to do this by the HSE. The department then has sort of looked at this again and said, no, we're not going to allow this to continue on. So they have to make up the money somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, okay, the 150, we have no problem paying that for our tablets.
Yeah.
But justify it, they can't.
Yeah.
They can't, and that's what annoys an awful lot of people about it. As I spoke to her, said, when are you going to go on a radio again, Noel, to speak about the blister packs? I said, well, I can do it any time. So that's when I picked up the phone and I rang ye about it.
Yeah, well, we're happy to give you the platform to do that.
Yeah.
And are you hearing from a lot of people that this is distressing for them?
Oh, yes, most definite. Like I go home to my own hometown, and I hear from people that's not able to afford it.
Yeah.
Are not able to afford it. They're barely able to. They barely have, say, 15 or 20 euros to their name each week.
Yeah.
And they're very, very annoyed, friend.
And what are you hearing about these people as well? Just trying to get by, I suppose, with the cost of living the way it is.
Cost of living, shopping, the price of shopping, the price of these tablets now, 1.15, then the 15 euros on top of that. Like, where will it stop? Where will the government actually step in and say enough is enough?
But really, they've gotten such bad press from it. It's a wonder if they allow this to come to, any sort of discussion on this, because Jennifer Carroll McNeil in particular coming out of this looking very, very bad.
Like, she's coming out with one good thing 1 minute, and then all of a sudden she's coming out with another bad thing in another end. Yeah. So Jennifer McNeil, as far as I know, and I will hold my hand up and I'll be corrected. She hasn't stood up in the dawn and said, right, I'll step in here and I look after it.
Yeah, well, she accused some of the pharmacies, I know, of wrongly claiming fees from the state for dispensing these blister packs as well. So that annoyed the hell, obviously, out of the pharmacies.
Yeah. Like, okay, as you said there, they have a business to run, but like it doesn't take 15 euros to do up the blister pack.
Well, no, I was talking to Jimmy O'Sullivan he's a pharmacist in Feather and a regular contributor to us, and he was explaining that, what it takes, and it is time consuming now, Noel, I have to say, so they deserve to be paid for it in some fashion or other. But as you say, not from the most vulnerable.
Well, I'm only here to speak on behalf of the people from social welfare and the people that's on other different payments.
Yeah.
Like, as I said to you, we're getting a €10 now in January, and now we might as well not have that €10 in January because it's going to go towards the cost of the blister packs.
All right. Well, hopefully they'll see a way around this, because I would imagine it would be politically very damaging if they didn't. Noel, we wish you well and a happy Christmas, and thanks for all the contribution during the year.
All right, friend. Thank you very much.
Look
Thank you,
after
and the same to you and Tip FM.
Thanks, Noel. Bye-bye to you now. That's Noel there. Leanne is with me, and basically she's going to tell us what we're doing over the next few days. And God knows I need to know, Leanne. I need to know. What are we doing tomorrow to begin with, anyway?
So a lot of people have said, it's been a heavy year and things happen locally, and it does after a while start to get you down a bit. So we had a lot of calls to just have a light-hearted day with some of the regulars, chat about Christmas of old, highlights of the year, lowlights of the year, and what they're looking forward to in the new year. Right,
so we're going to shoot the breeze with our favourite contributors tomorrow, is that it?
Yeah, so they're all going to check in with us, let us know what the best part of the year has been, if they had a hard time, how they got through it. And then Christmas of old, has Christmas changed? Their favourite toy they ever got, their Christmas memories, even their favourite Christmas song. So we're really getting into the festive spirit.
I know, so it'll be ho, 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 as opposed to me being my usual gringy self, is that it?
I'm going to bring in a Christmas hat for you.
Oh, please don't. Tell me about Christmas Eve, though, because that's going to be really special, isn't it?
Oh, it's really exciting. So we're going to be live from the showgrounds in Clonmel, and we've lots of guests coming in and out. We've the Carers Choir in to sing for us live. Johnny Luby's going to be there as well. He's coming down. And we're going to have just a great day of festive spirit, which will be lovely.
Going to be mighty. So we're inviting everybody along for that.
Yeah, come down. You'll be there, I'll be there, Ian will be there. We'll be running around. We want to chat to everyone, see how their Christmas is going, because Christmas Eve is when it really hits in that it's on top of you again. You have to be ready.
It's great, and we'll have the kids around there, and the crack should be mighty. You're real Christmassy, aren't you?
Oh, I love Christmas. And I read something online. Christmas is the time to watch documentaries and binge watch all the shows you wanted to watch all year that you didn't get a chance to.
Okay, right, okay. Well, that's exactly what I'll be doing for most of Christmas, but I'll be adding an odd glass of wine and maybe some chocolate to that as well, so I'm looking forward to it. So we have a busy couple of days, though.
Very busy, but very festive, and we want to hear from everyone what their favourite Christmas gift was, what their favourite Christmas song is, which is very, very controversial.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be interesting, all right, isn't it? Do you have a favourite Christmas song?
Oh, Fairy Tale of New York.
You didn't even have to think about that. Yeah.
It's just, I would listen to it in the summer. Any time of year, it's one of those songs, I just think it's so nostalgic, and it's gorgeous. It's one of a kind.
Yeah, it's a marvellous song. I'll have to think about this now carefully, and I will announce my decision on that over the next few days as well. So everybody's welcome to make contact with us.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know what you're looking forward to, what the best part of the year was for you, what you're hoping will come in 2026. Because last year we had the bike shed and Bambi Thug. This year we had an All-Ireland victory and also threats of World War III at some point. So
it's been a mixed year.
It's been a mixed year.
And that's for sure. All right, Leanne, thanks very much indeed for that. And that wraps up the show for today. But we are looking forward to the next couple of days. Only 3 sleeps to Christmas, can you believe? Leanne produced, Ali looks after content, and Stephen has the time done on the lunchtime show. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.